Deadly Rescue, Book 5 from The Path of Dragons, written by Pedro Urvi, narrated by Amanda Lee Cobb. Chapter 1. Nahia saw the tremendous claw coming at her at great speed. It was seeking her head. With barely time to react, she leaned to the right side of the saddle as fast as she could. The claw brushed her helmet. As a consequence of the abrupt movement, she felt a pang of agony in her ribs. She must have pulled a muscle. She didn't worry. It wasn't the first time, nor would it be the last. What mattered was that she had avoided being hit. "Are you all right?" Eki sent her, along with a feeling of concern while he performed an evasion maneuver. "Yeah, don't worry. Where did it come from? I didn't see it until the last moment," Nahia asked the swift silver dragon, who was changing course again fast and was heading to reach some nearby clouds. "I think it is hiding behind the mountain peak, below to the east." Nahia grasped the saddle better. Eki's abrupt turns and changes of direction could get her in trouble if she didn't pay full attention. For some reason, she didn't fully trust the straps that held her to the saddle. She always had the feeling that they were going to snap at the worst moment. In fact, she had nightmares about it, often like a premonition. "Well, I didn't see it fly up towards us," she told Eki, focusing on the recent attack. "I must admit, I did not either." "As a rule, the attacks come from above or from behind. From below isn't that common." Nahia looked in every direction, as if trying to make sure that what she was saying was true. "That is why it took us by surprise." "Do you see it?" "No, but it has to be in the clouds." No sooner had she said this when the red dragon appeared through the clouds. Nahia saw it coming from her right at great speed. "Here it comes," she warned Eki as she readied her lance. Azkad Gorimaisu veered at tremendous speed right at the same moment Eki did too to avoid it. It was as if it had read its mind. Not only that, it had done so even faster than Eki, though the silver dragon was extremely fast. Unfortunately, Azkad Gorimaisu was a master of attack and evasion, and bigger and faster than Eki. A lance struck Nahia's right side hard. She felt the blow fully and leaned to the left side of the saddle. Mariska, the Taruk Capro rider, was a warrior as impressive as she was skilled. She struck very hard both with lance and shield, and Nahia had already received several bruises since they had begun the advanced training for dragon riders. She held back a cry of pain and recovered in time to block the Taruk's next attack with her shield. She hoped she would not have to go to the infirmary that evening before going in for dinner, as she had 3 days before when she had received a good blow of the kind that left their mark. Both the red dragon and his rider really hit hard. This felt more like suffering a punishment than training, but she had no choice but to bear it. Azkad Gorimaisu made a new turn, right when Eki was doing one of his evasive maneuvers at top speed. Once again, the red dragon seemed to read the silver dragon's mind, because he placed himself beside Eki without any trouble. "He's guessing all your movements," Nahia sent him as a warning. "I'll try to be more erratic to mislead it." "Erratic sounds good," Nahia sent back, seeing how Azkad Gorimaisu struck her in the back with its left back claw. It did so with the claw closed, and Nahia felt the strong blow against her back. She went forward in the saddle and nearly lost her lance and shield. The straps held, although the blow had been hard. That red dragon was a nightmare in combat. Fast, strong, and skilled. Eki made an abrupt turn, first to the left before turning again immediately to the right. He did it very fast, and this time he managed to move away from Azkad Gorimaisu. He dropped about 100 paces in the air and then flew up 200. Nahia managed to sit properly in the saddle and looked everywhere to try and guess where the next attack would come from. "I don't see him. Do you?" Eki asked her. "I don't see him either, but if we don't see the dragon, it must be in those clouds above us." "Yeah, it has to have hidden in there." The exercise continued for a while longer. Nahia and Eki had a hard time defending themselves against the attacks of the big dragon and his rider. They sweated and suffered with each attack and defense. "We consider this exercise finished," Azkad Gorimaisu sent, and placed himself beside Eki, flying slowly. "You can hang up your weapons," Mariska told Nahia. Nahia hung her lance and shield from the saddle and immediately felt better. Her arms were very tired, and her back, side, and head hurt, which was nothing new. Her armor stopped anything from piercing her, but it wasn't padded on the inside, and she felt the blows. a lot more than Nahia would wish.
You did not do all that bad. Eki, your evasive movements are very good, as are your speed and reaction time. But they are predictable. Too predictable. In air combat, it is imperative that the enemy is unable to guess your next move, because if it does, it might be the last one.
Yes, my lord, Eki replied humbly.
Next turn. Go down to the airfield and send up Aroa and her rider, Logan. It is time to practice with them.
From the ground, Nahia and Eki watched Logan and Aroa's training in the sky between the clouds. They couldn't see everything, but what they saw made it clear they were struggling as much as they were, maybe more. They waited until Logan and Aroa finished their training. Once they did and landed, Nahia noticed that Logan was shaking his head. "Are you all right?" she asked, worried.
Yeah, a little stunned.
"Claw or lance?"
Both.
"At the same time?"
No, in the last 2 attacks.
"Well, since you have a very hard head, I don't think there'll be anything wrong with you," Nahia joked, trying to ease his discomfort. Logan took off his helmet and touched his head.
"There's no blood. I'll survive," he said and smiled.
"These exercises are especially hard on the riders," Aroa sent in a tone of feeling for them.
"They do not affect us so much,"
Eki sent, slightly embarrassed. "It's not your fault the exercises are like this," Nahia told them.
"We appreciate everything you do to prevent us from being destroyed," said Logan.
"We appreciate it a lot," Nahia told them. Azkad, Gorimaisu, and Mariska landed in front of them.
"Go back, rest, and recover. We will continue tomorrow. You must learn to not get hit at all, or the Griffins will destroy you in combat," the combat master sent them.
"Don't believe that because you once surprised a group of Griffins in an incursion that it's always going to be that way. In war, you'll be the ones taken by surprise, and being surprised in enemy territory means death," Mariska told them. With that grim parting, they went back. Nahia and Logan said goodbye to Aroa and Eki, who went to the castle, and the 2 of them headed to the barracks. As they got nearer, carrying lance and shield, 2 Turgnamus came running out to meet them from the management office. One was wearing silver and red, and the other silver and blue. They were their squires.
"Here comes those 2,
Logan commented. "They're so funny. Don't deny it." Nahia stopped and watched them approach. The 2 Turgnamus ran with their peculiar gait that made them look as if they bounced from one side to the other with every step.
"My Lady Dragon Rider!"
The first one stopped in front of Nahia and bowed elaborately.
"Allow me to alleviate your load,"
he said, and reached his arms toward Nahia.
"My Lord Dragon Rider at your service,"
the second one said, and after the bow also reached out with his arms. "Lantrios, there's no need to be so respectful and obsequious with me," Nahia told him. "I'm always telling you this."
"My lady, I couldn't act any other way. I'm your squire. That's how I must behave when I perform my duties."
"It's the same thing, Scruto, although I know you'll say something similar," Logan said to his squire.
"My Lord Rider honors me, but I must behave as the squire I am. It's an honor to serve you, my lord."
Nahia and Logan exchanged a glance and then shrugged. There was no way to make those 2 understand that all this ceremony was not necessary. They seemed to not want to understand. The 2 Turgnamus took the weapons and left at a run toward the managing office, where they would look after them and leave them spotless. Nahia always wondered how they managed this, since they usually had deep dents, especially the shields. Most likely they took them to the forge. The world of the Turgnamus was complicated and mysterious. The very bad-tempered ones neither listened nor gave too many explanations. "Did you ever think you would have a squire?" Nahia asked Logan while they headed to the barracks.
"Honestly, I never did, but I also never thought I'd end up being a dragon rider."
Nahia smiled. "How true. Well, what do you know? I never thought I would either." Logan looked at her and smiled slightly like he usually did. "And I bet you never imagined you'd walk arm in arm with a Flameborn," she said, passing her arm through his. Logan looked down at the arm and then up to Nahia's face.
"Especially such a beautiful one."
Nahia blushed so hard she thought her face would explode. She hadn't been prepared for Logan's answer. He was not prone to giving compliments or praise, especially to her. "Well, thank you."
"It's a pleasure."
They walked in silence, arm in arm, until they reached the door of the barracks, and there they let go. It was not that they hid their relationship, Their aerial squad knew of it, and practically all the usual ones in Judrakos did too. There was not any rule that forbid it, and it was not frowned upon that the riders had a partner, especially because they didn't live that long. Being a dragon rider meant having a short life expectancy. They went into the dining hall and headed to their squad's table. They used to always eat at the same one if it was available, but lately there had been more aerial squads in Judrakos than usual, so sometimes their table wasn't free. Today they were lucky. Their comrades of the Meteorite squad were finishing eating, and when they saw them come in, they greeted them with a glance. "How did you do today?" Tilsa, the Felidae lioness of the squad, asked them. Nahia liked the powerful feline, who always acted so sure of herself. She was not aggressive and always showed a self-assurance born of experience. And besides, for a Felidae and a lioness at that, she behaved calmly, as if she had already seen everything and nothing affected her too much. The fact that she had light magic reminded Nahia of Daphne, although they had very different characters. "As usual, we've been given a good beating," Nahia commented as she sat down at the table. "We're improving, at least I think so," Logan added with measured optimism as he sat beside Nahia. "If you keep getting beaten and you're run down, I'm afraid you're not progressing adequately," Morgana told them. Nahia did not find the long, dark, curly-haired human friendly or pleasant. Her intense black eyes always seemed to be loaded with malice. Her beauty was wasted in that perpetually hard face of hers. She seemed angry at the universe. And she probably was. Beside her, Daphne wasn't even surly. The fact that her magic was darkness fitted her personality like a glove. "Thanks for your supportive comments. We always hang on them like honey on the lips," Nahia replied with irony and a bitter grimace. "I'm not going to sugarcoat the truth for you. Are you real riders or children who weep when they don't get what they want?" Before Nahia could reply, Logan did. "We appreciate your constructive comments. We're riders, and we'll prove we're worthy. We'll manage to pass the advanced training. Have no doubts about that." Morgana made a face that meant she did have them. "Whatever you say, I'll be waiting here to see whether you do or not." Nahia did not understand what Morgana's problem was with them. It was most likely not only with the two of them, but it was true that she messed with them more than the others. "You'll make it. Don't worry too much if it seems a bit hard now. It'll get better. Use your head and stay positive. That's how you achieve things. If you can enjoy the teachings a little, do so. It's always best to learn with a joyful heart," Fodden told them, smiling. Nahia had to admit that the slim Fatum was so handsome, it was hard to look away from his blue eyes and beautiful face. Besides, the blue of his armor, being of the water element, matched his eyes. She looked at Logan and Fodden's beauty and charm vanished. For her, there was no one other than Logan, no matter how attractive others might be. "We try to make the training as enjoyable as we can, but it's not that easy," Logan told him. "It's actually very complicated," Nahia added with a grimace of pain when she leaned forward on the table. "Don't enjoy it too much," Sarmas intervened. "Enjoyment is a deceit for the soul. You must always be alert to deceit," the tall Scarlatum recommended. His skin shone bright crimson, although the brown tones of his armor dulled it a little. "We keep our eyes open and our hearts locked up," Logan assured him. Nahia looked at him. She did not fully like that part about the locked-up heart. She hoped his would not be locked away from her. "Hurry up improving and pass the advanced training. The invasion is close, and you must be ready or else you'll be a handicap for us," Morgana told them with her usual surly look. "We won't be a handicap for anyone," Nahia replied, annoyed. "That remains to be seen," the dark-haired, dark-eyed girl said, staring at Nahia. "I'm not afraid of you or the training," Nahia replied defiantly, and held her stare. "Well, you should be." In her own way, Morgana only wants to make sure you're ready for what's coming. It won't be easy. And since we're a squad, we all depend on one another, Tilsa said in her confident, self-assured way, and she downed her cup of water. "We will be. We won't be a handicap for the squad," Logan promised. "What do we know about the invasion?" Nahia asked, looking around and seeing faces she did not know eating in the dining hall. "For now, all we know is that it's being planned very carefully, and that other swift squads are already arriving that will take part," Fodden said, brushing his hair off his face. "This place is getting busier every day," Logan commented, also looking around.
It will be even more full soon, Sarmas said. A considerable group of squads is required to attack the Griffins.
Is it a fact that we're following through with this invasion? Nahia asked. It looks that way. When the 5 Dragon Kings make a decision, especially if it's an invasion, they rarely change their minds. Things would have to go very badly in other worlds for them to cancel something so important, Teal'c said. I can't see the least sense in this. Nahia shook her head. The dragons don't give a hoot about your opinion, Morgana replied. Nahia looked at her sternly. I already know that. There's not enough of us yet. So, for now, we can be at ease and enjoy ourselves, Fodden commented. Enjoy? Logan asked, raising an eyebrow. This tasty food, rest, and the company, of course, the Fatum said with a big smile that lit up his beautiful face. Our Fatum is a joyful soul, in clear opposition to our dark-haired human. Sarmas smiled as he finished devouring a roasted turkey leg. I say things as they are. Once we invade Graphoros, you'll lose the smiles on your faces, Morgana said, and she got up and left. What a character, Nahia said, watching her leave. She has her reasons, Teal'c said. Now eat and go rest. You need it. Nahia and Logan nodded. They both ate while their squad comrades chatted about the latest rumors. Nahia couldn't get the fact that they would have to go and fight the Griffins on their own world out of her mind. That was a very bad idea. Terrible. For everyone. Chapter 2. He's coming, Nahia sent to Eki when she saw a shadow to her left in the clouds. She hadn't even seen the whole silhouette, but she knew they were being attacked. He's coming from the left, at our same level, Eki sent to her. Now we have to avoid him. Now, together. Nahia and Eki dodged Askar Gorimaisu and Mariska's attack. They did this by moving like one at the last instant before being rammed. Eki went to the right, dropping at tremendous speed. Nahia doubled forward and held her lance and shield tight. She sought to minimize the friction of the wind against her body. They went down fast with the wind on their side. They're following us, Nahia warned as she looked back. Maneuver of upward avoidance, Eki warned her, and with tremendous speed he began to climb diagonally, crossing the clouds. Askar Gorimaisu was not going to let them get away so easily, and followed them just as fast. Nahia looked back over her shoulder and saw the master coming dangerously close with Mariska in the saddle. They'd been training for days, and although they were improving, escaping from these attacks was very difficult. The master was too fast, and the dragon maneuvered with amazing ease for his size. Mariska moved as if she were perfectly synchronized with the great red dragon. The advanced evasion training was a terrible headache for Nahia and Logan. He's on our tail! Downward escape maneuver, Eki sent. And the swift and agile silver dragon made an abrupt movement and started down like a spark. Nahia was leaning as far forward in the saddle as she could. Askar Gorimaisu was unable to change his course in the air so swiftly, and Eki achieved some distance. Even so, the master kept up the hunt. We've dodged the master twice. If we manage once more, the victory will be ours, Nahia sent to Eki, filled with optimism. We have never dodged the master 3 times in a row. There's always a first, Nahia sent to Eki with the intention of cheering him up. Try we will. Through the bond that united her to the silver dragon, Nahia felt that he was prepared to give it all, so she would too. They're coming! Nahia saw that the master and Mariska were approaching at great speed. The great red dragon had trouble swerving, but easily picked up speed in any direction. Now they were coming straight from behind. I'll increase our speed, Eki sent, and he beat his wings hard to pick up enough speed to stay ahead of Askar Gorimaisu and avoid being rammed from behind. Faster, or they'll hit us! I am trying. Eki managed to equal Askar Gorimaisu's speed. We need separation. I will dodge him with a nosedive. Nosedive? Nahia did not like nosedives. Yeah, it is how I can achieve my maximum velocity. Nahia looked back and saw Mariska very close and aiming her lance at her. She would be upon Nahia in no time. All right, nosedive it is. Here I go, nosedive at maximum velocity. Eki changed direction with a movement as skilled as it was abrupt. He went from flying parallel to the ground to diving headlong in the blink of an eye. Nahia, who was already expecting the movement, sat down in the saddle to help him. They managed to meld together, and the abrupt change in direction was performed perfectly. Ascad Gorimaizu tried to make the same abrupt change, of course, but he could not do it as well as Eki because of his larger size. The master had some trouble changing direction. "Now, at top speed," Nahia sent him, having seen the forced maneuver of the master. Eki went down at lightning speed, faster than any other dragon. Ascad Gorimaizu lunged in a nosedive after him. The great red dragon came down fast, but to his surprise, Eki was flying even faster still. "At 300 paces, I will end the evasion with an amplitude maneuver." "Amplitude maneuver? Can't you use another? That one kills me." "If we want to dodge the master, only that one will work." "Okay, let me know." Eki went down like lightning with his wings folded in the best position to cut the wind. Ascad Gorimaizu was trying to catch him, but between the advantage he had obtained with the cut and the faster nosedive of the silver dragon, the master could not catch him. "Go! You almost have it!" Nahia cheered Eki. She kept looking back, and she could see that Ascad Gorimaizu could not catch them. 400 paces, Eki warned her. Nahia prepared herself. What was coming next was a very abrupt movement that felt like a strong pull. She placed her lance and shield in their hooks and grasped the saddle tightly. 300 paces, now! Eki spread his wings as wide as possible, and at once, and with the effect of the wind under them, he shot upward and somewhat forward. Nahia's stomach went down to her feet, and she held on tight, because the resulting pull was terrible. That movement against the downward speed left her feeling broken. All the blood in her body went to her feet, and her muscles seemed to tear with the strong pull. For a moment she was unable to think. The blood did not reach her brain. Ascad Gorimaizu, who was coming after them like lightning, saw the play and tried to react. But he could not swerve in time, and he saw Eki climbing as the red dragon headed to the ground at tremendous speed. To avoid crashing into the trees below, he made a descending curve at 200 paces to get parallel to the ground below and not crash. That movement took the red dragon further away from Eki, who was climbing calmly without moving his wings, soaring to keep them spread at full extension. "We did it!" Nahia could not believe they had succeeded. "We dodged the master! For a third time! It is a real achievement!" "I don't know how your wings don't tear with that maneuver," Nahia told him. "My wings are tough, like my muscles and bones." "Even so, I find it amazing you can do that." "I appreciate the compliment." "End of the exercise. You managed 3 evasions successfully." They received Ascad Gorimaizu's message, who was already flying toward them. Nahia could not believe it. For the first time, they had managed to win, and they would not land covered in bruises. Today, they had not even one to complain about, and she could not believe it. Eki's joy infected her, and she smiled broadly under her helmet. It was a real feat. "Very well!" Nahia congratulated him as she saw how the master started to follow them, but then stopped. "We managed to dodge!" Eki cried. Through the bond that linked them, Nahia felt he was very happy, and with reason. After weeks of training in advanced evasion, this was the first time they had managed to leave Ascad Gorimaizu and Mariska behind. The red dragon and his rider came to their level once Eki stopped evading. "You have managed to finish this exercise of evasion successfully. It is a great step on your path to becoming advanced riders. It will save your lives when you are fighting against fast and nimble flying creatures, like the very dangerous griffins." "Evading the enemy is half the victory in combat," Mariska told them. Nahia thought she was not wrong about that. From her minimum experience with the griffins, it was clear to her that evading them was the best option in any confrontation they might have with them. "Go down, and send up Aroa and Logan. Let us see whether they succeed too, or if they need some more training." Nahia's wish was, of course, that Aroa and Logan might pass the test, but she was not sure they would do so. Eki was getting faster and faster, defying the natural law that governed the flight of the dragons, which said that the bigger the dragon was, the faster it could go. This maxim did not apply to Eki. The silver dragon was smaller than the other dragons, and yet he was a lot faster. Since they had come back from Graphoros, Nahia had been able to note this fact. With every training exercise, Eki became faster. His improvement was incremental and subtle, but she could feel it. And now it had been confirmed, since he had just left behind the fastest dragon in Jadrakos, and a red dragon at that, much larger than Eki. Nahia suspected that Eki's speed was due to some magic skill the silver dragon had, which the other dragons lacked. That was the only explanation that made sense.
Right away, Master,
Eki sent, and with an abrupt movement, he nosedived at great speed. The skill to turn in the air and perform abrupt maneuvers, though, was indeed favored by Eki's smaller size. He was a lot more agile and skilled at changing direction than other dragons which were bigger than him. Nahia did not know whether there was some magic involved or not, but she suspected there was not. Eki was naturally very agile because of his smaller size. No magic involved. Or at least, that was her guess. If she was right and this was correct, they would have to wait and see. They approached land at great speed in a swift nosedive, and Eki calculated the moment to begin the curve that would put him parallel to land. This calculation was hard to make, and it always made Nahia very nervous when he did this. More than once he had crashed because he had made the wrong calculation. This day, luckily, he did it well, and they passed 100 paces over Aroa and Logan's heads as they waited on land.
Your turn. Good luck,
Eki sent them. Thank you, we will need it, Aroa said encouragingly. Unfortunately, this would not be a happy day for all. Aroa and Logan did not manage to pass the exercise. Asgard, Gorimaisu, and Mariska caught them several times, despite all their efforts to prevent it. They finished the exercise sore and with the feeling of having failed again.
You will make it soon,
Eki encouraged them.
I do not know whether it will be very soon. I am not as fast as you,
Aroa sent with a feeling of sadness.
Being fast is only part of it. The skill in maneuvering is equally important.
Eki tried to cheer her.
Well, and that I am also not as good as you, so...
Aroa could not find many reasons for self-confidence.
Practice improves the practitioner. We only need a little more time,
Logan commented as he nursed a blow on his right thigh.
Let us hope we succeed,
Aroa sent, but there was no optimism or self-confidence accompanying it. Nahia sighed. She wished Aroa and Logan would succeed like she and Eki had. She knew that eventually they would, since they were doing better every time. What she feared was that by the time they did, Logan would be covered in bruises. She was worried about the blows to the head, which might leave repercussions.
Everything will turn out fine,
Logan said, seeming to pick up on her concern. Nahia nodded, but she was not sure of it. Chapter 3. Sitting in the dining hall with Logan, Nahia watched the other dragon riders. The other members of the Meteorite squad had already finished eating and had gone to rest. An idea began to take shape in her mind. Here were exceptional dragon warlocks and witches, chosen for being the most suited to ride dragons. She was looking at the best dragon warlocks and witches. They'd been arriving for days to begin the campaign against the Griffins. Every day, a new bunch appeared. Nahia didn't know where they were coming from, and it intrigued her. Some arrived flying from the south, which meant they would have used the pearl south of Dracoros. Others came straight to Jadrakos through the portal she herself had crossed to the world of the Griffins, which made her think they came from other worlds. She had no idea if she was right, but she was very interested to find out.
What are you plotting?
Logan asked her, raising an eyebrow. How do you know I'm plotting anything?
The face you're making.
I'm not making any faces.
Oh, you definitely are. Your forehead creases and your gaze wanders, but your eyes have an intense glow to them.
Okay, I'll buy the frown, but the lost gaze with a glow I won't. You must have caught me looking at you. She smiled with slight coquetry. Logan blushed. It took him a while to recompose his usual serious and intense mien.
No, it's not that. So tell me, what were you thinking?
Nahia could not help smiling at him. She stroked his cheek and smiled. I'm thinking that we should recruit all these dragon riders for the cause. They're the best among the dragon warlocks and witches. They're formidable. They'd be an incredible asset in helping us achieve our goals of freedom. Logan sighed with troubled eyes.
That's very risky. There are several draconids among them, and even those who are not you can't trust will be open to the cause. Not all of them think like us, or even if they do, they're afraid of the dragon's retaliation.
I'm aware of the risks. Don't worry about that.
Of course I worry, and I don't know how aware you are of the danger that surrounds you.
Logan looked at both sides to make sure there was no one listening to their conversation. Without risk, there's no way to achieve an ambitious goal. If we don't take risks, we might not die, but we surely won't succeed. The dragons will go on ruling and enslaving our world and those of others. Logan leaned back and watched the riders as he thought about Nahia's words.
Since I know you won't stop, the surest thing is to speak to humans, Fatum, and Philae, in that order. The Tarut Capro are risky, and don't even think about the Draconid.
Nahia smiled at him, pleased. Thank you for always supporting me. You're the best.
The fact that I support you doesn't mean I always agree with you.
As long as you somewhat agree with me, that's enough for me. There are 2 humans at that table talking. They're from 2 different squads, so they must have known each other for some time if they're chatting like that. We could sit with them under the excuse of all being human and see what their opinion is, Nahia suggested, looking at the riders she was referring to.
How will we know whether they're an option or not?
Logan frowned. I'm very good at picking up on these things.
You are?
Yep, my inner flame tells me, she lied with an innocent expression. Logan looked at her, raising an eyebrow in disbelief.
I'm not so sure about that.
He shook his head. Don't worry, I'll deal with it, she promised. They got up and headed to the table with the 2 humans. May we join you? Nahia asked in a friendly tone. The blonde human with blue eyes waved at the free seats. Of course, we're all riders here. We're not going to refuse you. The other human with chestnut hair and brown eyes nodded. Besides, you're human. Nahia and Logan sat down with them. I'm Nahia, and this is Logan. I'm Gins, of the Moon Squad, the blonde one said. And this is Jake of the Volcano Squad. The boy with chestnut hair greeted them with a slight nod. Pleased to meet you, Nahia said. You 2 are new. We've never seen you here before, Gins said.
We've just graduated as dragon riders,
Logan told them.
Then you're in the advanced training,
Jake guessed. Yeah, we're working on it, Nahia replied, making a face that implied it was not going so well.
Don't let yourselves get too overwhelmed. It'll soon be over,
Gins promised. The exercises are complicated, Nahia said, intending to make conversation.
They are, but in the end our goal isn't only to be good fighters but good riders, explained Gins. You mean the way to ride? Logan asked, a bit confused. Yes, but more than that, strengthening the bond with your dragon lord. You want to focus on strengthening the bond between rider and dragon, so that afterwards in combat, you become one, Jake explained.
And is it possible? Nahia asked, although what she really wanted to ask was how far this bond could reach.
You'll manage to understand each other very well, Gens assured her.
And is that good? Nahia asked doubtfully. Logan shifted in his seat. Not much, just enough for Nahia to realize this was a question that might get them into trouble. The 2 veteran riders looked at each other.
That question might be taken the wrong way, Jake warned her. And you might end up in trouble, Gens added.
It's only ignorance, Nahia shrugged and pretended. What can we expect from the bond?
The bond grows like a living entity, one of live magic. You'll feel part of what your dragon feels and vice versa, Gens told her. It also helps you to react in combat, to be more in communion with each other, Jake added.
Will my dragon lord know everything I feel? Nahia asked, almost fearing the answer to be yes.
A lot of what you feel, yes. The longer you are together, the stronger the bond, the more it'll feel from you, Gens said.
But I guess it doesn't work the other way, from my dragon lord to me, because there must be a limit. Jake nodded repeatedly.
That's right. The dragons don't let us feel everything through the bond. They cut it. They can do so, but we can't.
I'd already guessed it would be like that.
They are the lords, and we're their slaves. They're not going to let us know all their secrets, Gens told her with a wink.
Nahia was not surprised by the answer. It was what she had expected. She decided the time had come to take a risk in the conversation. Have you heard anything about those rumors of a rebellion? Nahia asked, looking them straight in the eye. Logan shifted again, uncomfortable. Gens and Jake glanced at each other.
You should know more than us. It's said those rumors originated from Dracoros, and we haven't visited the academy in a long time.
Nahia nodded. We've heard some things, yes. What we don't know is whether you want to know what's going on, or whether you'd rather know nothing of the matter. There was a tense silence. Logan looked at Nahia out of the corner of his eye. She was relatively calm. She had not implied anything other than that they had heard something. Now she had given them a turn to take a risk. If they did not, neither would she. Gins spoke.
Talk of these matters is considered treason. The dragons would execute us if they found out.
If they found out. Nahia looked around, as if saying there was not a dragon in sight.
Why do you want to talk about this?
Jake asked, frowning. He did not trust them, which was only natural since they had just met.
To know what's going on. Nothing but natural curiosity,
Logan replied without taking a risk. We're not looking to involve you, if that's what you're thinking.
I find it odd that you want to talk about this when you barely know us,
Gin said, slightly suspicious. Nahia saw it was better not to insist. I was only curious, that's all. She raised her hands to drop the subject.
There are always rumors of every kind, and we only wanted to see whether there was any truth to them or not,
Logan said, shrugging nonchalantly.
Gins nodded. If we hear anything, we'll let you know.
Thanks, Logan hastened to say, desperate to close the subject. Nahia and Logan chatted a while longer with them about many different casual topics. Then they came to the matter of the campaign to invade the Griffin's world.
It's going to begin soon,
Gins predicted. New riders are arriving every day.
And we're not that many,
Jake added. The squads that are arriving, such as yours, where are they coming from? Nahia asked.
That depends on what war is going on and the state of it,
Gins replied.
My squad was in Jumeglia, the Sylvaris' world. Have you heard of it?
Nahia nodded. Yeah, as far as I know, it's a green world where plants cover the whole surface. A tropical world of forests filled with exuberant flowers. The Sylvaris call it Biziohean.
Wow, it's funny to find someone who knows that word,
Gin said, throwing his head back in surprise. A squad mate of mine met some Sylvaris in the dungeons of Dracoros. She told us about them. The dragons have conquered that world. Why were you sent there?
Gins nodded. We were sent on a control mission.
Control mission? Logan inquired.
Yes, that's when your work consists of making sure those who have been conquered don't make too much trouble,
Gins told them.
Oh, I see. You control possible uprisings,
Logan guessed.
That's right. Many missions for aerial swift squads like ours are of that specific nature.
Why? Nahia wanted more information. She found it very interesting.
Because we're fast and effective, Gins said. We arrive at a world, we go to the cities or equivalent of the subjected people on that world, and we make control passes. If they sent a land army, it would take an eternity. The worlds are, as a rule, enormous, and some of them have very abrupt terrain, so traveling through them would take years.
And why don't riderless dragons go there? Nahia asked.
For a similar reason. They're slower than us. And in some worlds, like that of the Griffins, they're exposed if they go without riders.
I see.
That's why this one here said it's enough to send us. Although there are always non-swift dragons in every world. They're the occupation force.
Oh, after invading a world and conquering it, they stay, Nahia guessed, thinking of Tremia, and that if the dragons won, they would stay to rule that world. It would be awful for Egil, Lasgol, the Snow Panthers, and everyone in Tremia.
Of course, they have to control it, said Gins.
How are things there? Nahia wanted to get information in order to help the Sylvaris. That was one of Daphne's purposes. She had wanted to help them after meeting Ohane and her people in the dungeons.
It's a dangerous world. The Sylvaris are experimenting with poisons, some of them very powerful. If you get distracted and they hit you with an arrow or dart, it's the end for you.
Poisons to kill us? Nahia already knew the Sylvaris were experimenting with poisons to kill dragons, but she wanted to find out what Gins knew about the matter and whether there was positive news.
There's rumor that they're seeking to create a poison strong enough to kill a dragon.
Wow, that must make the dragons nervous, Logan commented.
It does. That's why we were sent there. We had to control 2 areas where it was said they were experimenting with said poisons.
And is it true? I'd be surprised. Nahia tried not to seem too interested.
That they're using poisons is true, as well as the fact that they can kill us. We lost 1 rider from the squad.
Isn't there an antidote?
Logan looked concerned. For there to be an antidote, you must first know the poison, Gins told him. The poisons they're using are new. They mix together very toxic substances.
The poison is unknown, and so is the antidote. That doesn't sound good. Nahia wrinkled her nose. It's not a pleasant destination. Every squad sent to that world loses riders. And dragons? Not so far. The dragons cope with the poisons, although they've managed to make them sick with a very powerful mixture of a new poison. Dragons getting sick? How seriously? This time it was Logan who asked in a tone of disbelief. To the point of being unable to fly and barely walk. They hide it, but I've seen it with my own eyes. And do they recover? Nahia asked, raising an eyebrow. After a few days. But that might not be the case in the future if they continue increasing the toxicity of the poisonous compounds. Well, that's interesting, Nahia commented, pretending. If they were able to develop a poison that killed dragons, that would be an incredible advance in the fight for freedom. She wished with all her being that the Sylvaris would reach their goal of developing a very powerful poison capable of killing a dragon, and if it didn't kill it, at least render it very weak. In any case, we got out with only one casualty, so we're looking for a new rider for the squad. How do you go about finding one? Logan asked, interested. All the squads have casualties. Once here in Jadrakos, those with the least members are redistributed among the others. We're waiting to be assigned a rider. What a sad way to find a new squad, Nahia said sadly. It is, but at least whoever comes to a new squad is because they've survived. That's true. Logan nodded. They'll be grateful to be in the new squad. It would be better not to lose so many lives, Nahia said. There was a moment of silence, and then Logan broke it. What about you, Jake? Where were you on a mission before coming here? Jake leaned back in his chair. My squad was also on a control mission, in the world of the Centaurus. Wow, they must be most interesting, Nahia said, intrigued. Well, not that much. They're very powerful fighters with those horse bodies they have, and their magic is powerful too. What type of magic do Centaurs have? I don't know much about them. No one knows much about them, Jake replied. They don't speak our language, and they're not the very communicative kind either. They'd rather attack. Their magic is a mixture of nature and animal magic. Animal magic? Logan raised both eyebrows. We call it that in general. It's the kind of magic certain creatures have that increases their strength, speed, or ferocity, Jake explained. Oh, I see. Logan was thoughtful, thinking about that. If the Centaurus are already strong, when they increase their body with that magic, they become very dangerous. Nahia nodded. Did you have any problems? Luckily, they were quiet. We had no confrontations. Jake wiped imaginary sweat from his forehead in mock relief. And knowing there are such dangerous worlds to control, don't you find it a bit reckless to attack the Griffins now, on their world? Nahia asked. That doesn't matter, Gins replied. Every now and then the dragons do this to put the Griffins in their place, or so they say. They attack them so their power doesn't grow. They want to keep them weak, Jake went on explaining. I don't understand how they're going to achieve that. Nahia frowned. By killing as many as they can, Gins said. Chapter 4. The desert sun bathed the mountains of blood and the small group that stood on them with its golden rays. It seemed to want to transmit to them the harshness of the environment they were in and the future that awaited them with a feeling of fire. The scorching beams of light reminded them all at every instant that whoever did not shelter from them would end up suffering, in body and soul. The king of the sky had no mercy on the immense deserts south of Tremia, nor did the enemies of that group. I'm ready to finish off a couple of ugly flying lizards with evil intentions, Vigo cried with his arms akimbo, staring at the desert pearl standing on the red rock of the mountain. We don't know how many dragons we'll find when we come out of the pearl in the east. There might be more. Lasgul corrected him in a tone that meant they might be facing serious trouble. It doesn't matter how many there are. We come out and we kill them. Problem solved, Vigo replied nonchalantly, filled with his characteristic exorbitant confidence. Might be many, more than 10. Then you what do? Camus messaged, shaking his tail nervously. Why do you say that, Bug? Don't call on bad luck. There are only going to be 2, 3 at the most of those lizards there. Camus is right. There might be more. And if there are 3, we'll be in serious trouble, Gerd said, folding his strong arms over his strapping Norganian chest. Bah, we've already killed a few dragons.
I'm not intimidated in the least."
Vigo waved his hand to downplay the situation. "I've been away for a long time, but since when can we kill dragons easily?" Nilsa asked, twisting her finger in her red mane with a look of disbelief.
"Vigo is exaggerating. Don't believe him. We have killed some dragons, but only by using our heads, and it hasn't been easy at all. We catch them by surprise when they're alone, and we attack without being seen, and even so it's hard to kill them," Lasgol said, showing her his golden bow. "And not die in the attempt," Gerd added. "Nonsense. Didn't we kill 2 right here a very short while ago?" Vigo pointed at the place on the red rocks where the confrontation had taken place. They had hidden the dead bodies of the dragons inside the mountains in case others appeared so they wouldn't know what had happened there. "Let me remind you, it wasn't easy," Gerd insisted.
"Dangerous, and we had help from dragon warlocks."
Yeah. By the way, where are they?" Vigo asked, looking around. "They're about to arrive," Aben told them, pointing toward Jafarika, the city to the east in the middle of the desert that spread in that direction. "They'd better. There's no time to wait. We've wasted enough already," Vigo protested, tapping the ground with his boot. "I'm impatient to leave."
"We had to wait for Ona and Augi's wounds to heal," Gerd said, shaking his head with a look of disbelief at his partner's insensitiveness. "Ona and Augi have be well first," Camus messaged, glaring at Vigo as if he were mad at him. Ona and Augi were listening with their ears alert beside Camus. They knew the group was talking about them.
"We could have gone without the kitty in the mutt."
"No can. We no leave anyone."
"No one who's a person. These are animals. We can leave them behind."
Ona and Augi growled at Vigo. "Ona and Augi always with us. We leave you behind first," Camus said.
"I am a person and you are a bug, so don't tell me who we leave behind or not."
"You much ugly."
"Look who's talking."
Vigo mimicked splitting his sides with laughter. "They're already recovered, thanks to Edwina's care. You've done an amazing job." Lasgol thanked the healer. "It's a pleasure to be able to heal such wonderful creatures," she replied, looking at the snow panther and the giant wolf with tender eyes. "But remember that although I can heal the immediate injuries, the body always requires its own time to finish healing. You can't take shortcuts. They've recovered, but they do need some more time to heal completely." "Ona Augi no attack. Rest and recover." The panther and the wolf looked at Camus and moaned. They waited in silence for a moment. The desert breeze caressed them with its arid, scorching touch.
"They're almost here. I can already see the Red Squadron climbing up our sacred mountain," Aben indicated as he watched from a red rock ledge.
"They're truly fascinating," Nilsa commented, rubbing her hands nervously. "I can't believe they're from another world, from one of the dragons no less, and that they know Egil besides. That's unbelievable."
"That's because you haven't been out much lately."
Vigo made a face to her. "Very funny." Nilsa poked her tongue at him. "I'd have liked to see you with my wounds."
"Impossible. No dragon can wound me. I'm too good a fighter."
"Yeah, you only get frozen alive so you stop talking your head off, like an insufferable bumblebee," Nilsa replied.
"Very good."
Camus smiled and wagged his tail happily.
"Ha, ha. The redhead is feeling funny today. Better look where you step, clumsy feet. Your antics don't affect me."
Vigo shrugged as if he didn't care about what she might say, as if any comment slipped off his clothes. "You have no idea how much I've missed you," Nilsa said with heavy sarcasm, looking into his eyes and shaking her head. Gerd sighed.
"We're recovering that chemistry we used to have. It fills my heart with joy. It also gives me a headache. Better a head filled with ache than with fear, which is what has filled it lately."
Vigo reproached him.
"It seems that the freezing you suffered hurt that mixed-up head of yours a bit more. I overcame my fears a long time ago. Now I control them, and they have no effect whatsoever on me. Yeah, like that limp you pretend not to have. Looks like you have a cast-iron hip."
"Don't mess around with Gerd, least of all with the consequences of what happened to him at the shelter," Nilsa chided him.
"Don't worry, Nilsa. Nothing this fool might say is going to affect me," Gerd assured the redhead with a warm smile. "Talking about consequences, what are yours?"
Vigo asked Nilsa. "None. Only a couple of huge scars." Nilsa passed her index finger all along her torso from her chest to belly.
"Your boyfriend isn't going to like that,"
Vigo said, eyeing Aben. The Desher Tumani's leader's younger brother turned his dark eyes on him.
"What's really important is what we have in here,"
Aben told Vigo, putting his hand over his heart.
External beauty is like the desert. With time, it's entirely consumed. But the soul is like a hawk, which flies high and fast, enjoying the skies.
You say very well, Camus agreed.
Oof, and a poet on top of it all. I'd better not answer that,
Vigo said, shaking his head. You'd better shut that parakeet mouth of yours. You've been at it too long. Nielsa put her fingers to her lips. Vigo narrowed his eyes, looking at Nielsa.
Deep down, you all love me. Besides, what would you do without me? Nothing.
Vigo lifted his chin, proud of himself.
They're already here,
Aben warned. They all turned to see the Red Squadron arrive. They were led by a dozen Desher Tumani warriors. All 3 squads climbed the rocks to reach the group.
Welcome to the domains of my people,
Aben greeted them, spreading his arms and going down to meet them. I translate in mind, Camus offered, since Aben did not have a ring like the Snow Panthers had.
Wonderful, Camus, Lasgol said gratefully.
It's a pleasure to tread on rock instead of sand. We appreciate the welcome,
Daphne replied, wrinkling her nose as she gazed at the desert behind them. Then she bowed and greeted Aben respectfully, as all the warriors who had led them here gathered around them. Lily, Evo, Taika, and Aiden also bowed in a sign of respect. The sun is scorching around here, Lily commented as she looked up at the star in the sky, shading her eyes from its rays. Although I infinitely prefer it to the cold and snow of your realm, she told the Snow Panthers. Lasgol nodded. Both climates are quite extreme. The sun suits my crimson skin well. Your rain, snow, and freezing wind, on the contrary, are bad for it. The desert sun burns all kinds of skin. You should be careful, Healer Edwina told her as she stood beside Nielsa, observing. My skin is red, sun-resistant, Lily said, gesturing to her face. It'll burn, Edwina warned her. You'd better heed what she says. She's a healer and knows about things like this, Nielsa advised her. I'm not saying it won't burn me, only that my skin bears it well. But I will be careful. I can't afford to burn this marvelous skin of mine and ruin my beauty and charm, Lily said, smiling.
How are things in Joffrika?
Aben asked in a worried tone.
The city is under our control. The Felidae soldiers of the White Dragon King have joined us and the revolt, Daphne said.
We parleyed with them for a long time and finally managed to persuade them,
Taika explained.
It wasn't easy, but they listened to us, and in the end we brought them to our side. The Dragonheads must have been a significant incentive in said meetings,
Vigo commented with a smile filled with irony.
Taika nodded. The fact that we killed 3 dragons, and that they witnessed the death of one of them, was crucial for their joining us.
Not only have they joined us, they've appointed us their leaders, Lily added. Wow, that's really good news. Nielsa cheered and applauded the feat.
We're dragon warlocks. We're their superiors in any case,
Aiden began, not looking very happy.
They need someone to lead them. They're soldiers who've always received orders from the dragons. They don't know what to do or how to do it. The officers are quite lost without someone to lead them, Taika said.
I guess that with the king being dead, long live the new kings, Gerd said, sweeping his gaze over the members of the 3 squads. I'd be a great queen for the city, Lily said, shaking her long hair in the ardent breeze of the desert.
It's not our place to reign,
Evo corrected her.
We restore order and balance. We don't rule over one another. That would mean becoming what we most hate,
Taika added. The dragons. Lily understood and nodded. A pity that you're right. I'd look divine sitting on a throne with everyone at my feet. She smiled coquettishly.
I like you. You've got good thoughts, the kind that take you far,
Vigo told Lily. Lily smiled at him and made a slight bow.
And the Nosians, the residents of the city? How did they take the change in the situation? Lasgol asked.
Daphne tilted her head. Then she looked toward where the city stood in the desert.
Better than we had expected. They offered no resistance. They didn't revolt against us. The truth is, the situation doesn't change much for them, since they're still under the control of the army of the White Dragon King. What changes is that this army is now ours, and not the Dragon King's.
Perhaps they still haven't noticed, but it's a positive change, Gerd commented.
They're scared, which is completely natural,
Taika commented. Scared of you? Nielsa was surprised.
No, none of us, but of the fact that we've killed the Dragon Lord of the city, Daphne replied.
As they should be. The consequences will be very serious, for all of us,
Aiden predicted.
Your little wingless dragon doesn't look very happy about what we did,
Vigo intervened.
That's because I'm not. The Dragon Lords will demand blood for this. They won't let the death of 3 dragons pass, least of all treason. I'm not sure this wingless lizard is on our side.
Vigo looked at him with narrowed eyes.
I'd better kill him. It'll be less risky for the rest of us,
he said, and reached for the knives at his waist. Aiden reached behind his back for his sword and dagger.
Try to and die,
he challenged him. Vigo went to move against Aiden, but Gerd gave him a bear hug and imprisoned him in his arms.
Be still, no fighting among ourselves.
Vigo tried to shake the bear hug off, but Gerd's strength prevented him. Lily stood in front of Aiden, stopping him from attacking Vigo. She glared at him and whispered, "Take it easy. They don't know us well. It's only natural they doubt us." Aiden lifted his chin. He said nothing and did not move.
"Let's keep calm. We're allies,"
Daphne told them. Lasgul nodded.
We must trust one another. It's vital in order to be able to collaborate and achieve our purposes.
All be allies. Trust, Camus messaged, emphasizing the message. Nielsa stepped over to Vigo. "Remember, you have to rescue Ingrid," she told him, and pointed at the pearl. For a moment, Vigo debated whether to attack Aiden or the pearl.
All right, the redhead is right. I don't have time for this. I have to go and rescue my beloved. But I don't like that wingless lizard at all. I don't trust him.
Gerd let Vigo go, and Vigo shook out his arms.
The feeling is mutual,
Aiden replied, and his tough draconid look did not waver. There was an impasse in which the silence seemed to manifest the doubts of this alliance between peoples from very different worlds. Would it work? Would they be able to all work together to achieve the final goal of freedom? They all wanted it, but achieving it was going to require trusting each other, shedding blood, and dying. This they all knew, and it made the task a lot more difficult. Chapter 5. Aben opened his arms and spoke, breaking the tense moment.
It's time to make allegiances, not enemies. Times have been difficult, and they will get even worse. The Desha Tumeni accepts you as allies, both our old Norganian friends and the new ones from faraway Craido.
Taika nodded.
Aiden and Aben are right, saying that the situation is going to become even more complicated here. The dragons will come back for this pearl, and the liberated city. Once they find out what's happened, all will feel their fury.
And one dragon in particular will do so very soon, Lily muttered, shaking her head.
Our leader, Irakis Gorigaitz.
Taika revealed with a somber look.
Yeah, it'll come back for us, and when it finds out what's happened.
Evo gave a loud grunt.
"That is, if they don't inform it before, and it comes already in the know,"
Daphne commented, her look implying things would turn very bad.
Whether it already knows or finds out here, the consequences will be the same. What we've done is an unthinkable dishonor. It'll be left in evidence before the other dragons and the Red Dragon King. It won't forgive this. It won't forgive us,
Aiden said in a strangled tone. There was a worried silence, not only among the Igneous squad, but also the Searing and the Ardent. Their comrades shook their heads and muttered ill omens under their breath. Everyone knew that Arrakis Gorigaitz would not have mercy toward them after what they had done, not only because of the crime committed, but for the dishonor it brought it.
"What's your plan?"
Lasgul asked in a tone and with a look that could not hide the fact that he perfectly understood how serious the Red Squadron's situation was.
"Without your golden bow, there's little we can do against a dragon, least of all against one as powerful as our leader,"
Daphne replied with a deep sigh. "You could lend it to us so we could defend ourselves," Lily suggested, knowing the answer would be no, but she tried anyway.
"You no can use,"
Camus messaged to them.
"What do you mean we can't use it?"
Daphne's eyes opened wide.
"Bow use golden magic, use silver magic."
"What does that have to do with it?" Lily asked. She also did not understand what he meant and was frowning.
"In order to use the bow, you have to use magic, and this must be of golden origin,"
Lasgul explained.
"Those who don't have the gift, the talent, or magic can't use it. And of those who have magic, only the ones with golden magic." "We did not know that. It's very disheartening," said Evo, folding his strong arms across his chest. "We thought we could use the golden weapons to fight against the dragons," Taika explained. "This is really bad news."
Are you sure we can't use the weapons with our magic?
Daphne refused to believe this. Her nose was wrinkled and her eyes showed astonishment.
You dragon blood in veins, not golden blood, Camus messaged.
As you already know, there are different types of magic and different origins for this. We don't all have the same kind, nor does it come from the same origin, Edwina intervened, trying to make it clearer. We'll try it and we'll clear up any doubts, Nilsa suggested, looking at Lasgol.
I agree.
Lasgol handed the bow to Daphne. The Fatum took it in her hands.
I've never used a bow.
Don't worry, I'll show you, Nilsa offered and went over to her.
Thanks. In our world, the bow is considered a vile weapon. That's why they don't teach us how to use it, she explained.
If the dragons don't want you to know how to use it, it has to be for a reason,
Vigo said, raising both eyebrows with a malicious grin.
Bow very good against dragons.
Yeah, now we know that, Lily said. I wish we'd known before, so we could learn to use it. Nilsa gave Daphne a few brief, expert explanations. She helped her knock an arrow and aim at a rock 10 paces away, where they placed her shield as a target. Once you're ready, you only have to release the arrow. Keep your arm steady.
All right. How do I activate its power? She asked Lasgol.
You must gather energy from within you and send it to the bow right before releasing. If the bow uses your magical energy, it will give off a golden flash. If the flash doesn't come, then the magic has not been activated, and you'll perform a regular bow shot.
Understood. I'm going to try.
Daphne closed her eyes and concentrated. She was holding the bow, poised to shoot. She gathered energy from within and tried to send it to the bow. She could feel that this weapon had its own kind of energy, one powerful and latent. She only needed to interact with that magic. She thought she could do it. She was a Fatum, good with magic. As a rule, everything that had to do with the world of magic she was good at. That was why she was able to heal. She took a deep breath. She managed to glimpse a golden aura around the bow. There was no doubt. Magic imbued the weapon entirely. It seemed made of it. She took a good amount of energy from her inner dragon and sent it to interact with the golden aura of the weapon. When her energy joined that of the bow, there was a reaction. But not the expected one or a good one. There was a burst and Daphne was thrown backward. She hit the ground 3 paces back. The bow fell to the ground. It had rejected her. Wow, Nilsa covered her face with her hands.
I'd say the bow didn't like your touch,
Vigo commented with a smile.
Are you all right?
Taika asked Daphne, going over to her.
Yeah, just a little stunned.
I tell, only golden magic, silver magic bad.
You don't say, Lily agreed. Lasgol picked up the weapon from the ground and inspected it.
Nothing's happened to the bow. I think it rejected your magic, he told Daphne.
Taika helped Daphne to her feet.
Yeah, I felt that too. It did not like my energy at all,
she said, shaking her head to clear it. You can't use the golden weapons, not with your magic at least, Nilsa sentenced, spreading her hands in an apology.
This is a terrible disappointment. We were counting on it,
Daphne said regretfully.
Let me try,
Evo asked.
Are you sure? It's not a pleasant experience.
Daphne tried to dissuade him.
I'm the least gifted with magic of all of us. It might let me use it. My magic is weak in comparison with Daphne's.
I doubt it, but if you want to try,
Daphne said. Evo nodded and approached Lasgol.
You're brave, but this'll go wrong, he warned him.
Much bad, Camus joined in.
We must find out. I'll try, and then we'll know for sure.
What do you think, Edwina? You have a great knowledge of magic. The healer sighed. I'm afraid that the magical requirements of the spells and the magic imbued in this weapon are specific. It would take years to study and understand them. I'm afraid that the best solution, given the circumstances, is to try. I'm sorry I can't offer you a better answer.
We understand. Fine, we'll try.
Lasgol handed the bow to Evo. Evo took a moment to get ready, and an even longer moment to prepare to do the test. Once he was ready, he warned the others.
Ready. I'm going to try.
He shut his eyes and concentrated. The rejection soon occurred. The golden burst threw Evo backward, and the bow fell once again to the ground.
With this, we have confirmation. We of dragon blood can't use the golden weapons,
Taika concluded. Lily kicked a red pebble near her foot in frustration. This isn't good at all. We were counting on being able to use the golden weapons to kill the dragons. How are we going to fight them now?
Yeah, these and any others we might encounter. Daphne joined her, frowning, showing how upset she was.
Or make, Taika added, sighing in frustration and letting out his sadness at the bad news. Evo stood up after a moment and rubbed his forehead with his forearm.
That bow doesn't like us at all.
Let's not lose hope. The same way we've found a way for those without magic to use the golden weapons, we'll also find a way for those with silver magic, Nielsa said cheerfully.
There goes the optimist with her positive view of everything. Don't believe her. It won't be easy. It never is,
Vigo warned them.
There's something that doesn't fit in all this. From what you yourselves have told us, you've used the golden weapons,
Taika said, looking at Nielsa, Vigo, and Gerd.
How is it possible if you don't have magic, either golden or silver?
That's because we have very smart people among us, Vigo replied with a mischievous grin. Taika looked at Lasgol for an explanation.
I don't remember.
Lasgol apologized with a shrug. Poor thing, what that ruthless dragon did to you was terrible. Nielsa went over to Lasgol and patted his shoulder.
I'll explain, Gerd offered. Endwald, a mage of spells and enchantment magic, the brother of Sigrid, who is the leader of the Rangers, created some special gloves which can be used with objects of power. The objects of power provide the magic, and the gloves pass it on to the weapons through enchantments, he explained.
That's how we were able to use the weapons, since the magic comes from the objects of power, Nielsa said.
Must be golden magic, Camus specified. Oh wow, that's a clever solution, Taika said, rubbing his chin.
A solution we might adopt ourselves,
Daphne reasoned, as she began to see a way out of this crucial problem. If it served you, it will serve us. Lily cheered up, following her friend's thought.
There's only one small, big problem with that,
Vigo intervened, and by his fully ironic look, they feared something bad. The objects of power required are very difficult to find, since they have to be of golden magic and contain a vast amount of energy, Gerd explained. And I guess you don't have a dozen of them safely hidden away that you might lend us, said Lily.
You guessed correctly,
Vigo confirmed. It was very difficult to find them the last time, Nielsa told them, shaking her head for emphasis.
Blazes,
Daphne said ruefully, pacing angrily in circles. Taika put his hand behind his back.
We must find a way like you did.
This is nothing but one more obstacle. We'll overcome it.
Daphne cheered herself up and made a fist.
It's a mistake. Clearly these weapons are rejecting us. We shouldn't wield them. They're not of our blood,
Aiden opposed. How odd that you should think like that, Lily told him, shaking her head and looking at him with disappointment.
Could this Endwald help us?
Taika asked. I don't see why not. We're allies. We could ask him. Nielsa nodded.
We'll have to see what mood the shorty is in, because he's not always in a helping mood,
Vigo commented. He has a peculiar character, but he's a patriot and a great mage. Besides, he's Sigrid's brother. Edwina defended him.
He'll help for sure,
Gerd said.
Not so sure. They don't all have your goody-two-shoes heart,
Vigo replied. We'll ask him for help and see. I, like Gerd, believe he will help us, said Nielsa.
Thanks. That's certainly a relief. In a way,
Daphne said with a deep sigh.
Let's be optimistic. We'll manage to wield those golden weapons. It's only fair so that we have a chance against the dragons. The balance must be kept. There has to be a way to do it, and we'll find it, Evo said.
Another optimist. Vigo raised his hands up to the sky.
When will you all learn that life isn't fair or balanced or any of that? It's the exact opposite. And when the Dragon Lords come back here, we'll all suffer at their claws,
Aiden added. At that moment, Abon arrived. He was Aben's brother and the leader of the Desher Tumani tribe, and he heard the Draconid's words.
My people offer you protection,
he said to the whole Red Squadron.
If the dragons come, you can shelter with us under this mountain.
Daphne looked at her squad comrades, and then at the other two squads. They all nodded affirmatively.
We gratefully accept the shelter the Desher Tumani offer us, Daphne told him.
It's not much, but we have food and water, and the dragons haven't managed to reach us.
That's a lot, Lily told him. Few realms and tribes can say something like that. Abon nodded.
Unfortunately, we also know it's a matter of time before they find a way to break us. It won't be today, or tomorrow either,
Taika said cheerfully.
Let's hope you're right,
Abon replied, smiling.
Do you have space to shelter the soldiers of the White Army? How many are there? About 3,000.
Abon gave a low whistle.
No, but we could make the space.
How? Lasgul was interested.
There's a part of the mountains we don't live in, the northern part, since it's far away from the great river, and there's no water inside the mountain in that area. But its caves are huge and deep. They could shelter 10,000 people. If we take food and water there in large amounts, they could be inhabited. Can the dragons access them?
Taika asked.
There are 2 caves that open outside, one on the eastern side of the mountain and one on the west. We'd have to seal them, like we've done here in the southern side of the mountains.
It sounds like a lot of work, but it's a good option, Lily commented.
The dragons will come, and they'll want blood,
Aiden reminded them.
Our leader most of all.
Yeah, he's right, and without the golden weapons, we can't face them,
Daphne said.
We can hide and survive. Wait for a better day to fight,
Taika advised. That's a wise choice, Edwina agreed. The dead can't heal. They can't go on fighting.
My thoughts exactly,
Evo agreed too. Daphne thought for a moment and then went to the other 2 squads.
What do you think?
She asked them.
We're not going to make a decision without asking you first.
Logar, the Felidae lion of the Searing squad, was the first to speak.
We're with you, he told her. What we've achieved was only an impossible dream, and yet we achieved it. We killed not 1, but 3 dragons, and with our own hands. It's hard to believe, since it was impossible. But because of that, we'll pay with our lives if necessary. But everyone must know that we did it. That will give hope to our enslaved peoples. It will be known. We're already spreading the word through the deserts, Aben said. It's a rumor that flies in the desert breeze. It will have already reached the cities in the south, and from there it will spread west. Such a prowess can't be kept a secret. It will be known. Furthermore, we'll make sure it's known. The caravans that cross the desert will carry the message. We'll also send messenger hawks to Nogana. The leaders of the Rangers will know. That's a pleasant and uplifting thought, said Logar, looking at his squad. They nodded back.
Do you agree to hide here?
Daphne asked them, pointing at the red mountains to the north.
Yeah, it's the most sensible thing we can do now. We agree it's a good idea,
Logar said, and his comrades nodded again in agreement.
What does the Ardent squad say?
Daphne asked them. Brendan looked at his comrades and then spoke.
There's a time to fight and another to withdraw. If now is the time to withdraw, we'll do that. We'd rather go on fighting, especially after what we've achieved. But without the weapons or necessary allies, we can't defeat the dragons. We all understand that. We'd better wait for the right circumstances.
Brendan looked at his comrades to see whether they all agreed. By their nods, they did.
In that case, we'll hide until we have a way of fighting and killing the dragons,
Daphne said.
A wise decision. My people will protect you as best as we can. We owe it to you,
Abon promised.
We appreciate the protection, and on our part we'll do everything we can to help you stay safe from the dragons.
Daphne bowed respectfully.
When do you leave?
Abon asked the Snow Panthers.
We'll wait for the deep of night and leave then,
Lasgul told him. That's the best time to do it.
In that case, let's all go inside the mountain of our ancestors until the time has come. My people will want to say goodbye to the Hoar and his brave companions,
Abon offered.
And we'll give you a tasty farewell supper while we get everything you need ready for the mission,
Aben added.
All right, we're very grateful.
Lasgul bowed to both brothers with great respect. The Snow Panthers and the Red Squadron followed Aben and Abon and their warriors inside the Mountains of Blood. Those last hours altogether would be something they remembered for a very long time. They were all aware that things were only going to get more complicated rapidly, no matter how much they wished they would not. Chapter 6. It was deep night already, and the stars were shining bright in the clear desert sky. The full moon bathed the Mountains of Blood and the group standing on top of them with so much silver light they were as clear as in the light of day.
Everyone ready?
Lasgul asked his friends by the desert pearl.
I was born ready for action,
Vigo replied. reaching for his assassin ranger knives. "Ready," Gerd confirmed, looking at Edwina beside him. The healer nodded. Her face showed concern. They waited for Nielsa's reply, who was a little further back, saying goodbye to Aben.
"Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?"
Aben asked her, trying to persuade her one more time. Nielsa shook her head and held his hands in hers. "You know I love you with all my heart, but I don't want you to come. This is a mission for the Snow Panthers. We have to do this."
"Edwina's coming with you,"
Aben argued. "She's a part of the Rangers. Besides, we'll need her. I'm sure of that."
"That's not reassuring at all."
The look on the face of the handsome warrior became grim. "We're Nogonian Rangers. Danger follows us throughout our lives. You know that." Nielsa smiled at him gently. Aben nodded.
"I know, and danger seems to have a special fondness for your group in particular."
"It's the curse of being the Snow Panthers."
"You might also need me."
Aben looked into Nielsa's eyes, trying to persuade her. He did not want to part from her, least of all knowing the mission they were headed to was a very risky one. "It's your people who really need you, your brother and your tribe. They need you a lot more than we do," Nielsa told him, looking beyond Aben at Abon and his warriors as they waited beside the Red Squadron. The two groups were watching them a little further back. "Even more so now that you have to help protect the Dragon Warlocks and the soldiers of the White King of Jafarika." Aben sighed deeply.
"I don't want to lose you. You were on the brink of death. Your convalescence was very long, and I didn't know whether you'd live or not. Every day that went by and you survived was a happy, hopeful day for me. Now that you've recovered at last, you leave again to face danger. You'd be better here with us, more protected."
Nielsa nodded. She could see the pain Aben's heart was feeling, and which showed in his eyes. "We're going to rescue Ingrid, my best friend. I can't not go with them. She's my comrade in arms. We don't abandon our people, ever. She would come to rescue me without hesitation, despite the dangers, whatever they were. Nothing would stop her from doing so."
"I understand."
Aben nodded.
"I just don't want to lose you again."
"You won't," Nielsa promised, putting her hands to his cheeks.
"Promise that you'll come back to me safe and sound."
"I promise," Nielsa said, looking into his eyes, and then she kissed him.
"That's it for today, turtle doves. Daylight's coming,"
Vigo said, annoying them. Nielsa ignored him. "You take good care of yourself, my handsome warrior of the desert. We'll meet again here as soon as I can."
"I'll be waiting. My heart will wait for you forever."
Nielsa kissed him again, and then she walked over to Edwina. "Ready to leave," she said to the group as she picked up her bow and her satchel. Lasgul nodded.
"Let's go then." "I like this travelling by night. It's my favourite element,"
Vigo commented in a lively voice. "We're travelling by night, so the dragons have a harder time seeing us," Gerd clarified.
"You, being so big and with that goody two-shoes smile you always have on your face, would be seen even without the moon or stars,"
Vigo replied, and then smiled at him. "At least I wouldn't be found out for bumping against my colossal ego and falling on my back." Vigo burst out laughing.
"That was a very good rebuke. I like that."
"Much good," Camus joined in, and his eternal smile widened on his face. Vigo made a gesture of recognition at the comment. "Camus, get going. We have to leave," Lasgul told him. "I open portal. Ona, Argy, stay with me," he messaged. The Snow Panther and the Giant Wolf stood by Camus. "Good luck, everyone," Lasgul said to the others staying in the desert. He was holding the golden bow in his right hand. Unfortunately, he was sure he would have to use it before long. He looked at Gerd and Nielsa. They both wielded their bows. Vigo had put away his daggers and was also holding his bow ready. Camus began to flash silver. A moment later, he was sending rhythmic pulses to the Desert Pearl. A little further back, Aben, his brother Abon, and the Red Squadron watched what was happening. The pearl flashed silver, and the first sphere formed on top of it. A moment later, the second appeared, and finally the third. They integrated into a great sphere that looked made of liquid silver. Once the portal was complete, it flashed brightly. "I select destination rune," Camus messaged to warn them. "The rest of us, take Onika's potion," Lasgul told them.
You have no idea how glad I am that it works. It tastes awful, but at least we don't have to be tied to the bug so we don't fall off when we faint," Vigo said, drinking the potion. "Although, we'll each still have a good headache." "Instead of being relieved, you should be grateful," Gerd said as he also drank the potion. "You do that, Milquetoast. I'm not very grateful." Vigo winked at him, smiling ironically. Nilsa shook her head. "Oh, how I'm looking forward to rescuing Ingrid, especially so she puts you in your place," she told him, as she also drank the potion. "My bellicose blondie doesn't put me anywhere. With her iron character, she indicates possible improvements to my charming personality." "She puts you in your place. And shut up. We'll have enough of a headache crossing the portal without having to listen to you," Gerd told him. "Rune East Pearl selected," Camus messaged, and the portal gave off a new flash. "Time to go. Remember, we all stay close to Camus and move with him as we've practiced," Lasgold told them. "Need any help with that iron hip of yours?" Vigo said to Gerd. "Very funny. Better watch your limbs. I've noticed that the freezing you suffered has left you with some side effects." "No way. I'm as good as new," Vigo said with a look of not knowing what his partner was talking about. Nilsa looked at Gerd, and he nodded, confirming that Vigo was not altogether well. "We all get onto the pearl at once," Lasgold said, and they started climbing with Camus in the lead. The Desher Tumeni had placed a wide wooden ramp so they could climb easily to the top. "Good luck," Daphne wished them. "Rescue your friend," Lily shouted. "We will," Nilsa promised. "I use extended invisibility camouflage skill," Camus messaged to them, and an instant later the whole group had become invisible. "Here we go. We might even kill a few flying lizards," said Vigo in a totally nonchalant tone. Gerd heaved a deep sigh. "Everyone get inside," Lasgold gave the order. "I go in now," Camus messaged as a countdown and entered the portal. They all hastened in after him. They came out of the portal and fell in front of the Eastern Pearl. They all stayed still, in silence, as if they had fallen in the middle of a well full of snakes. They looked around to determine the situation and the degree of danger. The moon and stars didn't shine as bright here, but the great silver portal behind them did. It allowed them to see about 10 paces in every direction. Then the silver light vanished into the blackness of night. Lasgold made out a red dragon with blue streaks to his left. It was a mature dragon of a good size. This worried him. It was not a young dragon, which made it powerful and even more dangerous, since it would have experience and would know how to use its head. From what they had seen so far, the young dragons believed themselves indestructible and lunged headlong into attacks without a second thought and without measuring the possible consequences. This was good for them, an advantage. Unfortunately, the veteran dragons and the millennial ones, like the immortal dragon, did exactly the opposite. He looked toward the pearl and the portal on top of it. He didn't know the landscape around them, but he guessed Camus had not mistaken the destination rune. Lasgold knew he had been here before but could not remember. Not that or a million things more, but he refused to torture himself about it. He had learned to live with his brain fog during the last few years of adventures in Organa. It was no good lamenting about his condition. Always forward, whatever happened, that was what he must do. Of that he was sure, very sure. Somehow he knew that this thought came from his father. He could not remember when he had told him this or why, but he had that feeling and he kept it. As for the forgotten memories, it didn't matter. He would make new ones with his friends, like this moment. "We be in East Pearl. 2 dragons, 1 veteran, 1 young. Not make noise," Camus messaged. Lasgold looked carefully and saw the other dragon, the young one, on the opposite side of the portal. It was sniffing, seeking their trail. It moved like a hunter looking for its prey, ready to lunge at it. It was white, with brown streaks. It could not see them, but it could smell them and hear them. This worried Lasgold. Also the fact that the veteran dragon seemed so careless. It looked too careless, as if the portal had not opened and it was not expecting anything to come out from inside. Something that just could not be possible. Lasgold did not like it at all. "Not move. Stay together with me. Much danger," Camus messaged to them. The plan they had come up with consisted of slipping away without being detected. They had done this before and wanted to repeat it. Fighting against 2 dragons that knew something was going on that should not?
was not a good idea. Except for Vigo, who did think they should attack them. But being Vigo, no one was surprised he should think so. He always wanted to kill any enemy that crossed his path, and that was not the most intelligent course in this situation. With Gerd's and Nielsa's help, Lasgul had persuaded him it was better to evade the dragons, pass by without being detected, and go straight to rescue Ingrid. If they risked attacking the dragons, something might go wrong, and besides, it would delay them. They had finally persuaded him. They had not needed to insist too much. His need to find Ingrid overcame his eagerness to fight a dragon.
Get on the sides of me. Slowly. Nielsa, Gerd, Argy, left side. Vigo, Lasgul, Ona, right side. Edwina behind.
They had already discussed this and rehearsed it. It was the best way to move forward as a group, considering they could not see one another. Camu's extended invisibility camouflage was amazing, but it also presented a difficulty when they had to collaborate. Moving in unison without making a sound was particularly difficult. Lasgul patted Camu's back twice to let him know he could start moving. He did so very slowly, and they all moved beside him, their hands on Camu's body with the exception of Argy and Ona, who, with their animal instincts, were capable of following his rhythm without trouble. The veteran dragon moved its head toward where they were advancing, and Camu stopped at once. Lasgul thought it had detected them, and was prepared to attack, but the red dragon did not make any abrupt moves or attack. However, it did something unexpected. It closed its eyes. This left them all puzzled. Was it going to try and find them by sniffing? Was that why it closed its eyes? To better pick up their essence? It was definitely not trying to sleep, because it had its neck stretched out and its large body erect on its 4 powerful legs. The portal was open, and without a doubt it suspected something.
We keep going, very slowly,
Camu messaged. As they began to move, the veteran dragon moved its head from side to side without opening its eyes. Lasgul feared they had been discovered, or were close to being found out. The group was moving silently, so he didn't think it could hear them. Perhaps it was their smell the dragon detected. Whatever it was picking something up, and that was not good. Camu kept going. Ahead of them there seemed to spread a field of grass, and they knew, if they remembered correctly, that there was a beechwood to the east. There was no other nearby place to hide, so they had planned to head to the forest, which would protect them once they went inside. Lasgul felt rather useless not being able to remember having been here before, or any detail of the area. They moved slowly and in tension, looking back every moment to see whether the 2 dragons had found them out or not. The 2 monstrous creatures made no sudden moves, nor roared. This eased Lasgul somewhat, although he had the feeling that something was not right.
Seems not discover. Go to forest,
Camu messaged. All of a sudden, the veteran dragon roared. It was as if it had felt Camu's mental communication. Lasgul noticed and knew instinctively that what the dragon was picking up was not the noise they could make or the smell they gave off. It was Camu's magic. When he sent them his mental message, Camu had used his magic, although it was something so intrinsic he didn't even realize. Yes, that veteran dragon had detected Camu's magic and was going to discover them. The dragon turned to them and started pursuing with strong steps while it roared. It was about 35 paces long, and its red scales shone in the moonlight. Luckily, it was not raining, so they were not leaving footprints on the ground, which was dry and covered with short grass spattered with rocks. Lasgul guessed that being nighttime, the dragon would not see their tracks on that kind of terrain. The grass muffled the sound of their footsteps, so it would not hear them either. From what they knew and had been able to prove, the dragons were very powerful physically and magically, but the rest of their senses were limited. Their sight, hearing, and smell in particular were underdeveloped. It was not strange. In nature, the strongest predators were not the fastest, or those with the best smell or hearing. The dragons had never needed to develop those other senses. They had enough with their strength and magic. The creature spread its wings as if it were going to fly, but instead of that, it shook itself and roared again. It definitely felt something, and Lasgul was sure it was Camu's magic. It was what made the most sense in this situation. It worried him that Camu's extended invisibility camouflage skill had to be what the dragon felt. Luckily, it seemed to be only slightly, but any other magic added to that, it would feel.
Don't use your magic anymore. Not mental messages either. Go to the forest, to the center.
Lasgoal whispered to Camus with urgency in his voice. He didn't know whether Camus understood the reason, but it was likely he realized what was going on. The dragon was still coming after them, but its younger companion didn't move from the pearl. It was going around it and looking at the portal as if it expected something to come out of it. It was definitely much better to face young and experienced dragons. Lasgoal listened very carefully to make sure they did not make a sound as they moved toward the forest. He didn't believe it was enough to make it follow them. They reached the edge of the forest. He could not see it properly because the night was quite dark, but Lasgoal heard the hoot of an owl to the northeast and knew it would be inside the forest. He looked back and made out the great dragon, which was lagging behind. It stretched its neck and lifted its head, seeking them. Lasgoal could see it with the light that radiated from the portal at its back as the opening started to close. He guessed that Camus was not using his magic. It didn't appear that the dragon was capable of locating them. This cheered him. Suddenly, the young dragon took off. It seemed persuaded that no one was going to come out of the portal, and started to fly in circles around the pearl while the great silver sphere became translucent and slowly vanished. Lasgoal knew they had to reach the forest before the young dragon thought of broadening the search area, which would happen the moment the portal shut. "Camus, go faster, to the northeast," he whispered, and patted him urgently on the back. Camus accelerated at once. They were not very far. Lasgoal could not see the forest, but he could feel it. He could smell it in the breeze that reached him, and he heard the nocturnal sounds of the animals that inhabited it. He was not mistaken. The clouds that covered the sky over their heads dispersed, and the light of the moon and a few stars came through to illuminate the night. In front of them was the forest at 100 paces. 200 paces behind them was the veteran dragon. As if the light that fell on the trees had given it an idea, the young dragon flew straight toward the forest. "Run, everyone! The young dragon is coming! It's tracking us!" Lasgoal warned. The group ran into the forest. They were all going as fast as they could, and Camus' camouflage skill kept them invisible until they entered the forest. Once inside, Edwina hung back and left the skills area of effect. They were running too fast for her. The healer was no longer young, and she was not used to physical exercise. Lasgoal saw her and backed up to help her. "Come on, Edwina. We're nearly safe," he told her cheerfully so the healer would not worry. She said nothing, breathing deeply and clenching her jaw as she went on running as fast as she was able. The young dragon flew over them, and unconsciously, Edwina and Lasgoal ducked. Luckily, they were already inside the forest, and the thick tops of the trees covered them, preventing the dragon from seeing them. Lasgoal did not like this. It had been a close call. Nielsa appeared within the thicket. "Come with me," she offered her hand to the healer, who took it gratefully. They went into the forest, following Camus and the others. Lasgoal stayed where he was. He knocked an arrow in his bow, an elemental air arrow. He looked at the veteran dragon from the edge of the forest. It seemed to have lost the trail and was still 100 paces away, trying to feel the magic. This alerted Lasgoal. He would not be able to use his magical skills, or the dragon would detect him. But he could use his non-magical skill as an archer. He saw the young dragon flying over their heads. He raised the bow and calculated where to release to avoid the branches above his head, then the arc he wanted the shot to follow. He took a deep breath, and once he had it all calculated, he released before the dragon passed again and discovered him. The arrow flew high and traced a long arc to fall on the western side of the forest. There was a burst like that of a storm with the sound of thunder, followed by a discharge like lightning. Both dragons saw the point of impact and headed to it like hungry lions drawn to fresh meat. Lasgoal ran off to the east, where they were heading. He reached the group, which was waiting for him. "We have to get out through the east, quickly," Lasgoal told them. The group came out of the forest on that side while the two dragons searched the opposite one. A short while later, they were lost in the night, headed to the coast. Chapter 7. The sun was shining timidly through the clouds of a covered sky and marked the road Lasgoal and his friends had to follow. They were moving toward the east coast along a secondary road with very little traffic that crossed two large forests. They walked fast, seeking to put as much distance as possible between the two dragons they had found guarding the eastern pearl and themselves. Being a narrow road and having forest on both sides, they were fairly protected, which gave them some peace of mind after the tense encounter and the night escape. "Are you doing okay?" Nielsa asked Edwina. They had put her on Camus' back so she would not get too tired. "I'm doing wonderfully," Edwina smiled at her. Camu is the best ride I have ever had.
No true. You from Rogdon. Their horses much beautiful.
That's right. The Order of the Healers of Tirsar has its temple on the west coast of Rogdon, land of lancers and magnificent horses, but they all pale compared to your charm, Camu.
I'm much flattered, but not believe all.
You should. Healers rarely lie. Edwina smiled from her perch and stroked his back.
Then I believe. I'm much of charm. Handsome, too.
Edwina laughed, and Nilsa, who was walking beside them, let out a guffaw. Camu, you have no idea how much you gladden my existence, the redhead told him happy.
I be so. Much good of everything. That bug's the vainest creature ever,
Vigo said with a wave of disbelief. Excuse me, Gerd replied. Vainer than the best assassin in Tremere? He asked in a tone of great irony.
In my case, it's all true. It's not that I believe it. I am.
Oof, Gerd sighed and shook his head. You're not the best assassin in Tremere. There are thousands of assassins scattered across the whole continent. You'd have to defeat them all to proclaim such a thing, Nilsa rebuked.
Let them come. You'll see how they all fall, one after the other.
Vigo waved his arms as if he were brandishing his lethal knives and cutting his enemies into little pieces. Nilsa rolled her eyes. You are really vain, the most, and that you do beat anyone else.
You confuse believing with being.
Vigo would not come down from his mountain of glory. Lasgol came back running. He had gone to scout the surroundings just in case.
It looks clear for about a league more.
Great, the fewer complications on the road, the better. Nilsa rejoiced.
Where are the kitty and the wild pup?
Vigo asked, noticing they were not around.
Argy is watching the left flank, about 200 paces into the forest,
Gerd said, pointing in that direction.
Ona is watching the right flank, also 200 paces into the forest,
Lasgol said as he also pointed.
Oh, good. I feel more at ease with those two watching.
Vigo made a face that he was not relieved at all. And I'm going to lag behind and watch the rear. Better to be cautious. This is a war zone.
We need to take every precaution,
Gerd said.
Fine, I'll go back to the front,
Lasgol agreed.
I'll protect the damsels and the bug,
Vigo said. This damsel is a ranger specialist who can put an arrow between your eyes from 300 paces away and doesn't need protection, Nilsa told him with an angry glare. Or did the ice of the glacier freeze part of the little head you have and you don't remember?
Be higher draconian, not need protection of anybody,
Camu messaged to him as he lifted his head and stretched his tail. Edwina cleared her throat. I'd like protection. I only have healing magic, and if it comes to fighting, although I was trained, I remember very little. Besides, I'm no spring chicken. I grant you the honour, she told Vigo to lighten the atmosphere.
Great, then I'll protect the healer. You two can fend for yourselves as you wish. Just don't come afterwards asking for help. I be very, very worried.
Lasgol and Gerd left at a run. The group kept going along the road. As the sun seemed to make its way through the clouds, the mood improved, and the conversation became lighter and pleasant. Vigo even told a couple of his jokes with his dark acid humor, which made Nilsa and Edwina laugh. Camu did not find them so funny, but he smiled. The long journey that awaited them to the coast might bring complications, but for the time being everything was going well, and they were enjoying their travels. I'm glad to be back on the adventure and seeing some of the world, said Nilsa, looking around at forests and the sky. You've spent too much time inside the mountains of blood. It's natural that breathing the air of another region and walking freely in it cheers your heart, Edwina said.
I like adventure. Fun.
Yeah, nothing like enjoying a little fresh air and clear landscapes, Nilsa nodded, stretching her arms with a smile on her freckled face. Suddenly, Gerd came at a run.
Dragon, take cover!
He cried in alarm at the top of his voice. They all turned, and what they saw made their skin crawl. Behind their friend, flying about 1,800 feet high, the red dragon with blue streaks from the eastern pearl appeared. It's followed us, Nilsa cried, eyes popping from the surprise.
Everyone, watch out!
At once Camu called on his extended invisibility camouflage skill, although the dragon had already seen them. Edwina got off Camu and crouched beside her companions.
Did you believe you were going to fool me? Nobody fools me. Least of all, some pathetic humans.
They received the mental message of the dragon with strength and fury.
"He's seen us before, can attack mines,"
Camus warned. Gerd reached them and vanished when he entered the area covered by Camus' skill.
"This time your invisibility tricks will not deceive me. I have seen you, and I know you are down there. I am going to kill you all," it messaged, and roared with satisfaction.
"It's going to attack us," Nilsa cried.
"Get your bows ready with elemental arrows," Gerd said. "I told you it was better to kill them in the first place," said Vigo. "Now we don't have the advantage of surprise. It does. You never heed me, and I'm always right."
The dragon roared and came down to incinerate them with its fiery breath.
"Not move. I use anti-magic dome skill." "I'll use my arrow in the eye of the flying lizard skill," Vigo said.
The dragon came down, skimming the surface, and launched its breath of fire against the group's position as they stood still. "Calculate the hit well," Nilsa recommended as she watched the fire coming toward them, but being denied by Camus' dome. 3 elemental arrows left their bows. One from Nilsa's, another from Gerd's, and the last one from Vigo's. The 3 sought to reach the dragon's eyes as it attacked. The dragon's elemental breath did not reach beyond 200 paces, this being the usual limit of their magic, but the arrows of the rangers could reach 300 paces without any trouble. Nilsa, who was an excellent archer, especially when it came to long range, hit the target, and her arrow struck the dragon in the right eye. There was an explosion of fire that burnt part of the eye. The dragon roared in pain, and its breath of fire faltered. Before it could launch it again, Gerd's and Vigo's arrows hit its head. They did not manage to reach the eyes. Gerd's was off by very little, and it exploded above the left eye. It was an earth arrow, and when it burst with a thundering sound, it created a cloud of blinding, stunning substances over the area of impact. Vigo's reached the dragon between the eyes, but a bit higher than he had aimed at. The explosion of his air arrow thundered loud, and discharged a bolt of lightning over the winged beast's forehead. The 2 attacks annoyed the dragon. It shook its head and roared in rage. It passed over them and rose, following the road.
"Lasgo'll be ahead,"
Camus messaged, concerned the dragon would see him.
"Don't worry, the weirdo knows how to handle himself,"
Vigo reassured him.
"The dragon is going to make another pass. Get ready,"
Gerd warned them as he followed the flight of the dragon with his gaze. "It's swerving," Nilsa warned. The dragon turned and faced them from the road ahead. It could not see them, but it didn't need to. It knew where they were. It came down 300 paces and opened its mouth to prepare its elemental breath, roaring before launching its fire. Nilsa did not miss the chance, and released from that distance, aware the dragon could not yet launch its incinerating attack. Nilsa's arrow went straight into the dragon's maw and burst in flames. A roar of pain told them it had felt it. The mouth and maw of the dragon were not protected by scales, but the dragon was not going to let that stop it from attacking, and at 200 paces, it launched its fiery breath. In response, Gerd and Vigo released at the head as the dragon reached them. They were complicated shots, but not for rangers, and least of all for experts like them. The 2 arrows hit their target. Gerd's struck the dragon's left eye with an air arrow, which thundered and discharged a bolt of lightning in the eye, wounding it. Vigo's was of earth, and this time his arrow landed right between the dragon's eyes. When it burst, the cloud of dust, earth, and noxious substances reached both eyes, preventing the dragon from seeing anything. The breath of fire stopped and was replaced by roars of rage.
"Blasted worms! I will rip out your guts for this and eat them, savoring the victory that is rightfully mine because I am superior to you, disgusting vermin!"
The dragon messaged, filled with fury, while it finished its pass and started to swerve to attack again. At that moment, Lasgol and Ona appeared from the right side of the forest. They didn't come out from under cover, but stayed hidden. On the other side of the road, they saw Argy.
"Argy, no! Hide in the forest!"
Gerd shouted. The giant wolf obediently withdrew a few paces into the trees.
"You did not fool me before, and you will not now."
The dragon roared and flew down from the sky straight to where they were in the middle of the road. Lasgol knew it was coming down to charge them. He raised his golden bow and aimed, gathering his inner energy and calling upon his true shot skill. He did not want to use a second skill for risk of failing. His magic was so unstable with some skills, and he had also noticed it happened without an identifiable reason. Sometimes they worked well, and at other times not. When they did not work, it was best not to use them. This seemed to happen for short spells. Unfortunately, he was in the latter. He sent energy to the golden bow, and it replied with a powerful flash. Lasgul released, and the arrow of fire went straight to the dragon's right eye as it swooped down, its claws extended before it. "Come with claws," Camus warned. "Release and move away," Gerd cried. Nielsa, Vigo, and Gerd released a moment before the dragon, which was coming down at great speed to destroy them with its claws. The 3 arrows hit the forehead and eyes of the dragon with explosions of fire, earth, and air. One more arrow, Lasgul's, plunged straight into the dragon's right eye while it burst with its load of fire. The dragon roared with pain and fury. But despite the pain it suffered, it didn't stray from its direction of attack, and it came to strike with its claws before it, applying all the weight and inertia of its tremendous body, knowing it would reach the group. Nielsa threw herself to one side an instant before impact. She was not the most skilled of the rangers regarding agility and balance. Besides, the long time healing in the Desher Tumani's pond had left her muscles very weak. She wasn't at her best by a long shot. Gerd grabbed Edwina and lunged toward the forest where Argy was hiding. He took the healer with him with a strong pull that made her feet leave the ground. He had no consideration as he lifted her in the air. Vigo waited calmly until the last instant, calculating the point of impact and the blow's area of effect. He did not fear danger, whether it was an enormous dragon or an enemy army. He fully trusted his prodigious assassin skills. Unfortunately, Camus didn't have Vigo's agility or speed. Foreseeing what was going to happen, he threw himself to the side where Lasgul and Ona were, trying to get away from the area of impact. And the great red dragon struck with its claws, landing with tremendous force. Nielsa paid for her lack of strength from that attack. Prolonged inactivity was going to take its toll. She was unable to leap far enough to avoid being run over by the dragon's body. She felt a tremendous impact on her side and was thrown away like a rag doll. She flew 10 paces and crashed on one side of the road, fainting from the blow. The dragon's wing hit Gerd, but he managed to prevent Edwina from being hit. He was thrown away and rolled from the fall. Edwina fell to the ground and lay there. Argy came out of the forest, running to Gerd. "Help her," Gerd told him, pointing at Edwina. Argy obeyed at once. The giant wolf took the healer's neck gently in his teeth and dragged her inside the forest to safety. Vigo stepped aside with amazing speed and agility, and the confidence that it was impossible for him not to dodge a flying animal such as this. The dragon didn't even brush him. It passed him by, raising a cloud of dust, earth, stones, and dirt from the road. Vigo shook it off nonchalantly. Camus did not manage to fully dodge the attack. The dragon's claws caught him in the rear, and he rolled over himself like a top from the tremendous impact. He felt a terrible sharp pain in his hind legs and thought he might have broken them, and perhaps something else. He rolled over himself again and again while the dragon dug through the middle of the road, raising it and sending parts of it in every direction while leaving a deep groove at its passing. It stopped after 100 paces with its claws plunged deep into the ground. "Camus!" Lasgul cried. Camus finished rolling and was left lying near Lasgul's and Ona's position. From the impact and the pain, he had lost the 2 skills he had been maintaining. Now they no longer had invisibility or protection against the dragon's magic. "I injured. No protection," he messaged in warning. Chapter 8. "Don't worry, Bug. I'm here to deal with that winged lizard," said Vigo as he ran like lightning toward the dragon. The great winged beast was trying to stop completely, but the enormous inertia of the attack prevented it from doing so abruptly. It dug its claws even further into the ground of the road. Lasgul saw Nielsa, unconscious, a few paces away, and ran to her while he released at the dragon's head to distract it. The arrow was an elemental of earth. It hit the back of its head with a loud sound, creating a small cloud of blinding, stunning substances. He had sent energy to the golden bow, so the arrow plunged halfway up the shaft after exploding. The dragon felt it, because it roared forcibly, a roar that was a mixture of rage and pain. "Ona, help Vigo," Lasgul said, and pointed at the assassin. The panther was waiting for the attack order and ran to the dragon with the speed and agility of a great cat. Lasgul slung the bow onto his back and sought Nielsa's, finding her weapon a few paces away. Luckily, it wasn't broken. He slung it onto his back as well and went to his friend. He grabbed her by the armpits and half dragged her to the safety of the forest. The dragon managed to stop, From the long break it had been forced to make, Lasgoal thought it had not calculated very well the force it was nosediving with. Or perhaps it had and didn't care about the long groove it had left in the road and breaking too late. It was most likely the latter. It had attacked, diving furiously and with all the strength it possessed. Vigo was approaching the dragon from behind at a run. He ran as if carried by a strong gust of air. He reached the beastly creature, dodged its long tail before it could turn and attack him, and leapt onto its back. The dragon was enormous, and its strength was colossal, but it was not agile. It was very difficult to move that huge body. Vigo seized this advantage and began to climb up its back with his knives in his hands. He was as fast as lightning, and the dragon didn't even seem to notice he was climbing up its body. The assassin was so light and nimble. He appeared to walk on the dragon's back with barely any pressure from his feet on the red scales. Gerd saw what Vigo was trying to do and ran to help him. He released at the dragon's head as it turned to look at the destruction it had left at its back with its powerful attack. Gerd's elemental air arrow hit it in the mouth and released a charge that forced the dragon to shut its mouth and look the other way. The distraction helped Vigo reach halfway up its back. Lasgoal also saw what was going on out of the corner of his eye. Knowing they were going to need Nielsa to fight against the dragon, he tried to wake her. He shook her hard, but the redhead did not react. Lasgoal fetched the water skin out of his satchel and poured it on her face. There was no time. He had to get back to the fight. Nielsa started to cough and opened her eyes. "Release from cover," Lasgoal told her, and he ran off toward the dragon in the middle of the road. The fearsome creature began to turn. Gerd released again at the dragon's head with a water arrow, which upon exploding, partly froze one of the dragon's eyes. The shot had barely missed the eye. It had gone a tad to the side when the dragon moved its head at the last moment. It didn't like this and roared in rage, glaring at Gerd, intending to finish him. "I will kill you all," it messaged, and opened its mouth to throw its breath of fire against the big guy. At that moment, Lasgoal's arrow, guided by his true shot skill and with the added power of the golden magic, hit the dragon in the left eye, the one that was already injured, and finished maiming it. It would not see anything else out of that eye. The dragon roared in pain and shook its head. Vigo climbed up to the dragon's neck. Now began the most difficult part. If the dragon realized he was climbing up its neck, it would throw him off by shaking it. He had to reach the head without the dragon noticing, which was complicated. But he had help. Ona appeared beside him and gave a tremendous leap from the back, landing on the dragon's head and holding on with claws and teeth. The dragon roared again, this time filled with rage, and it shook its head from side to side to get rid of the snow panther. Vigo seized the moment to keep climbing up the dragon's neck, crawling like a snake. But something went wrong. All of a sudden, his right arm failed him. It was as if it had gone stiff, and he couldn't use it. "Blazes, not now," he muttered under his breath as he slid down the dragon's neck and back, unable to grab a handhold. The dragon shook its head and neck from side to side and managed to get rid of Ona, throwing her to one side. The courageous panther landed on her 4 legs, although she had been thrown off in a bad posture. Luckily, she was a cat, and falling on her 4 legs was second nature to her. She ran to one side the moment she saw that the dragon was opening its mouth to use its fiery breath. The gush of flames sought to incinerate Ona, but did not reach her. She was too agile, her reflexes like lightning. She ran away from the flames in large bounds, and the dragon didn't manage to scorch her. Vigo had to sheathe his knives and grab the lower part of the monster's neck as best he could. He realized it was not only his right arm that was failing him, his left leg, too. He could not believe his bad luck. It had happened before, but he always pretended and told his friends that everything was fine. Gerd had realized, but Vigo always denied it. The truth was that now and then, one limb or another, or more than one, went stiff, and he couldn't do anything with it. He had no doubt it was because of the time he had spent frozen inside the glacier, and it was a most nefarious and unsuitable annoyance. He held on with one arm and leg, trying not to fall off. Gerd and Lasgoal knew they couldn't stay still, or else they would be an easy prey for the dragon. So they ran, one along each side of the monster, trying to present moving targets on opposite sides of the dragon to confuse it. Gerd veered to the left, while he released again at the red-scaled beast's eyes with another earth arrow. He wanted to annoy it as much as possible, and prevent it from using its magic against them, whether elemental or mental. As long as they didn't give it rest, they had a chance. The key was not to let it think. The dragon's fiery breath failed because of the shot, and Gerd saw it did not reach him. He sighed in relief as he kept running and knocked another arrow in his bow. Lasgol veered to the right. The dragon saw him and decided to attack him instead of Gerd. A moment later, while Gerd was still knocking an arrow, Lasgol saw the dragon's fiery breath brush his shoulder. He hurried, avoiding it, and released with his golden bow. This time, he used his powerful shot skill with an air arrow. He was close and would not miss. The bow flashed gold, and the arrow flew straight to the middle of the dragon's forehead. There was an elemental flash that released several charges affecting both eyes. Then the arrow plunged deep. He was using special Norganian steel arrows to affect the dragon not only with the elemental explosion, but to penetrate deep without breaking. Wooden arrows with an elemental load broke in the explosion, and Lasgol needed the arrow to stay whole since the golden bow allowed him to penetrate the dragon's scales. The dragon felt the shot because it interrupted its attack with its igneous breath. They had started using the new arrows for the express purpose of blinding the dragons and attacking their open mouths. These arrows caused a lot more damage than the wooden ones, but they were a lot more difficult to use. They weighed more and veered wider. The rangers were now all training with these arrows to master their deviation in course. Nielsa still had not time to get used to this new ammunition, so she still used the traditional wooden arrows of the rangers. Lasgol had no doubt that being such a great archer, it wouldn't take her long to get used to the steel arrows. On the other hand, these arrows worked very well at short ranges. The less distance, the better. At long range, they deviated a lot, and their reach was much less than a light wooden arrows. They did not work for the long-range archers with longbows, or for the famed sniper archers.
"Stay still, bloody humans,"
the dragon messaged them in frustration and rage. Gerd and Lasgol knew they had to do just the opposite, keep running in circles and releasing at the dragon's head. They both did so as they each knocked another arrow and ran as fast as they could. The dragon suddenly jumped for Gerd, beating its wings, and with a strong push from its hind legs. Vigo, who was still hanging from the monster's neck, nearly fell backward, but he managed to keep his hold somehow and not fall. His good arm and leg were holding on like a clamp on its prey. Vigo even bit the dragon's crest with his teeth to hold on to something else and not fall to the ground, as if he were Ona. Gerd threw himself on the ground and rolled over his head to avoid being crushed. The dragon turned to him and made to split him in two with a bite. At that instant, Argy leaped with all his strength and bit the dragon in the neck halfway up. The force of his jump made the dragon's bite miss, and Gerd rolled over himself several times to get out of reach of the monster's teeth. Vigo was left hanging from the lower part of the neck, with Argy slightly higher. The dragon lifted its head furious and roared. An arrow struck the inside of its mouth and burst with water, which froze at once, surprising it. Nielsa had released the arrow. She had recovered and was releasing from the edge of the forest. The dragon tried to create its fiery breath, but was unable to. The ice in its throat and mouth prevented it. It shook its head hard, trying to spit out the block of ice that had formed inside. Ona took a tremendous leap to the dragon's neck with the strength of her hind legs and joined Argy and Vigo. The three were now hanging from the monster's neck with teeth and claws. Vigo was still biting the dragon's crest with desperation. Gerd and Lasgol ran to the back of the dragon in a circular route to stay away from its reach and be able to release again, one on the left and the other on the right of the monster, which was now mad with rage for having Vigo, Ona, and Argy clamped onto its neck. From her covered position, Nielsa released again, and she did it at the right claw of the dragon, which was trying to reach Argy. The elemental water arrow burst, and for a moment the explosion of ice froze the dragon's claw close to its body. With a roar of rage, it managed to get it free with a strong pull. Gerd realized that the dragon was going to kill Argy with a swipe of its claw. The huge wolf was hanging from the upper part of the monster's neck and was not letting go. Once he bit down, Argy never let go of his prey for anything, unless Gerd asked him to. "Argy, let go! Now!" he shouted at him. The great white wolf did so at once, and when he opened his teeth, he fell to the ground. The dragon's right claw brushed his head. Gerd released at the right eye with a steel elemental earth arrow. He did not make a bullseye, because the angle was complicated, but the explosion of smoke and earth was enough distraction for Argy to get to the safety of the forest. Ona, escape now! Lasgul sent the good snow panther, guessing she would be the dragon's next target. Ona let go and dropped to the ground. In order to protect her, Lasgul released another steel earth arrow and hit the dragon's right eye with the help of his true shot skill. The eye, already very injured, was rendered practically useless between the explosion of blinding substances and the steel arrow pushed by the bow's magic, penetrating the eye to the fletching. The dragon roared with great force and beat its wings. It was filled with wrath. Both of its eyes had been destroyed. Lasgul did not think it could see much, and if it did, that would soon stop.
Blasted, treacherous vermin! I might not be able to see well, but that will not stop me from destroying you because I have already seen you.
Lasgul knew the dragon was planning something, but he had no time to reason what it might be. Just then, a mental blow reached him with such force that he thought his head had burst. A piercing pain penetrated his mind, like the sum of 100 intense migraines. His mind couldn't think from the pain, and his body couldn't move at all. Lasgul fell to his knees, dropping his golden bow and putting his hands to his head. The tremendous, intense pain was killing him.
You are all going to die a very painful death.
Gerd fell to his knees an instant later, his hands to his head and grunting with pain. The dragon was attacking him like it had Lasgul, and he couldn't bear the terrible pain. He made a tremendous effort to try and stand, but he could not, and fell back onto his knees with a look of intense suffering. Ona and Argy ran to Lasgul's and Gerd's sides to protect them. The dragon saw them and attacked mentally. It had no mercy. Ona gave a great leap in the air when she received the mental attack and was left lying in the ground, moaning. Argy jumped to one side and howled in pain, lying on his side with his tongue out. Nielsa prepared to release from her hideout among the bushes. The dragon could not see her there, at least her body, and least of all with both eyes practically useless. She aimed at the dragon's mouth. She was going to release when she received the mental attack, too. She felt it, as if she had been struck in the forehead with a steel shield. The pain was excruciating. Her bow dropped to the ground. She put her hands to her head and grunted with pain. She couldn't think or act. She only felt this sharp pain that did not let her do anything. She fell to the ground, thinking that this was going to kill her presently. Edwina crouched in fear. She wasn't taking part in the fight, watching from her hiding place. Perhaps the dragon had not located her among the trees. But she was wrong. She received the mental attack like the others, and an instant later she fell to the ground, filled with anguish for her comrades and flooding pain. Because of it, she was unable to use her healing magic to counter the agony. In order to use her magic, she needed to concentrate, and with that tremendous pain, it was impossible. She couldn't even think.
What do you think now, you insignificant worms? You may beg for your lives, but I will not let you live. I am going to make sure you suffer a slow, agonizing death.
They all felt the pain increase in their minds, insufferable, sharp, and deadly. It was going to kill them slowly and make them suffer until the last moment. A horrible death awaited them. Yet one of them was not suffering from a mental attack. Vigo was still holding to the back of the end of the dragon's neck, as if he were going to ride it. He was witnessing what was going on while he shook his right arm. He finally regained feeling. The stiffness vanished and his arm responded again. A moment later, his left leg also recovered. Vigo sighed under his breath, very relieved. He was back to normal. He leaned on his arm and could tell it was working once more. He immediately unsheathed one of his knives. An instant later, he was standing on the dragon's back. He looked toward the nape of the dragon. He leaned on his left leg and felt it in working order. He smiled. It was time to take action, to kill flying lizards with murderous minds. He drew his other knife and got ready. He leaped and reached halfway up the dragon's neck. Barely leaning and with a flourish of his incredible acrobat's gift, he linked the leap with a second one and reached the dragon's head.
What is this? There is still another stinking worm?
One that's going to take your eyes out, Vigo replied. And sitting on the head and holding fast with his legs, he began to plunge in his knives, one in each eye again and again as if possessed. The dragon roared in pain and shook its head furiously. Lasgul suddenly felt the horrible agony lessen. The terrible pain was still there, but now it was less intense, and he could think again. He saw what Vigo was doing and understood it was the reason. He picked up his bow and knocked an arrow as he went toward the dragon. Vigo had stabbed both eyes without mercy in an instant. The dragon lowered its head to be able to strike Vigo with its claws. "No way, lizard," he said, and threw himself headlong, rolling on the ground. The dragon, now blind, did not reach Vigo with its 2 claws, but continued clawing at its head and sides. Vigo had already put some distance between himself and the dragon and was safely watching its empty efforts. "I am going to kill you," the dragon messaged, beside itself with rage, roaring with its mouth wide open, almost unhinged. Lasgul stood in front of it and gathered a large amount of his energy. He called upon his powerful shot and multiple shot skills. There was the green flash, followed by the golden glow, and 3 arrows went into the dragon's mouth with tremendous force and in an upward direction. They reached its brain. The dragon began to roll over itself, roaring madly with pain and fury. Vigo motioned for Lasgul to finish the kill. Lasgul nodded. He waited for the dragon to face him for a moment and repeated the combined shot. The 3 arrows went in through the mouth and into the brain. The dragon took 2 more steps sideways and then fell dead on one side. Chapter 9. Lasgul dropped to his knees. He was exhausted from the fight, and his head still hurt terribly from the dragon's mental attacks. Vigo went over to the dragon and stabbed it 4 more times to make sure it was dead. "Ugly little lizard, this has been fun," he said, and started cleaning his knives of the dragon's blood. Lasgul sighed deeply. It had been anything but fun. They had all almost died. It had been too risky a fight. Nielsa and Gerd started getting up. Their heads hurt, and they could barely keep their balance. "It'll pass quickly," said Lasgul, seeing the suffering on their faces. "Are you sure?" Nielsa wrinkled her nose and frowned. Lasgul nodded. "The evil magic will vanish in no time," he said, pointing at the dead dragon. "Once the mage is dead, so is the magic," Vigo said. Ona and Argi were the first to feel free of the evil magic. They ran around the group joyfully and began to bounce around. "Yeah, my head no longer hurts," said Nielsa with a look of surprise. "The suffering's gone completely." "Yeah, my head's clear now," Gerd said, relieved. "Wonderful. Everything's fixed." Vigo sheathed his knives. "Let's go and check on the others," Lasgul said, standing and heading to where Camus was. Ona and Argi ran to Camus' side. He was still lying on the ground, not moving. That wasn't a good sign. A moment later, the others arrived. Edwina came out of the forest and headed toward them. "Are you all right?" Nielsa asked, concerned. "Yes, don't worry. The attack on my mind incapacitated me, but now I'm recovered. Who needs help?" "Camus," Lasgul said as he knelt by the creature's head, stroking him lovingly. Ona and Argi both moaned. They had both lain down beside Camus' head after licking his face and head and seeing that he was not reacting. "Let me check him out," Edwina said. The group moved back to let the healer work her magic. They sat around watching for a long moment. Edwina examined Camus very carefully. She placed both hands on the rear of the creature's body and was sending healing energy to find and evaluate the seriousness of the injuries he had sustained. "How's Camus?" Lasgul asked Edwina. He could not hide his worry. It showed all over his face. "Give me a moment," the healer said without opening her eyes or breaking her concentration. They all watched, restless. Ona's and Argi's eyes were filled with concern. Gerd was tending to the lacerations on his leg. They were not worrying. The blows on his back would leave bruises, but they were nothing serious. Nielsa also had cuts and blows, but she knew Edwina would look after them once she finished with Camus, so she wasn't worried. Besides, they weren't serious. A ranger suffered infinite cuts, bruises, and wounds of all kinds throughout their career in the Norganian elite corps. So it was, and someone had to accept it. Vigo had laid down on the ground and was resting with his eyes closed. He seemed to be taking a nap, but his friends knew he was alert. He was like a black cat. He could have his eyes closed and be half asleep, and even so be alert. At the least strange noise or activity, he would open his eyes and jump up with his knives in his hands. "Now that I think about it, why didn't the dragon attack your mind?" Nielsa asked Vigo, sounding very surprised. "True, your mind wasn't attacked. That's most strange. It attacked us all, except you. Couldn't it find your mental aura?" Gerd asked him, raising his eyebrows. Vigo half rose and looked at Nielsa and Gerd. Then he shrugged.
I'm special. Untraceable,
he boasted, smiling. Sure, that's what you'd like us to think, Gerd replied, wagging his index finger. It might be because you don't have a mind. Nielsen made a comical face.
Yeah, that might be it,
Gerd agreed, nodding hard.
Very funny. But you both know perfectly well that I do have a mind. Therefore, it has to be because I'm special, as I said, and that's why dragons don't detect me.
I don't think so. I can see your aura, Lasgold told him. And if I can, the dragon can as well. Even better, since its magic is a lot more powerful than mine.
Well, that's nice. Just my luck.
Vigo raised his arms in the air. Then why didn't it detect Vigo? Gerd asked. I don't understand. Lasgold thought for a moment.
I can only think that Vigo was right beside the dragon's head. Perhaps the dragon's own aura covered Vigo's.
That makes sense. The dragon's mental aura had to be enormous. And of course, this one being so tiny, Nilsa said, jabbing her finger at Vigo.
Ah, she's funny, the redhead.
I think you're right, Lasgold agreed. Yeah, that might be. It has a certain logic to it. Gerd agreed too.
It would appear that the flying lizard's mental trackers have a blind spot. That's good to know,
said Vigo.
I'd like to know how close you have to be to them before they can't use their mental attacks,
Gerd commented.
I would assume very close. Too close, most likely,
Lasgold said ruefully, making a gesture that meant he doubted it might help.
Well, I'll find out next time. We need to find out in order to exploit it,
Vigo volunteered. I'm not so sure that's a good idea, Gerd replied. You're getting slower and slower at reaching the dragon's head. Today it took you a real eternity.
I was as fast as I could be given the circumstances. The dragon wouldn't stand still. You're supposed to distract it so it doesn't shake like an earthquake.
And that's just what we did. Or did you not see Lasgold and me risking our lives running around the monster?
Well, rather than running, you were limping around with that iron hip of yours.
Says the assassin who takes a day and a half to reach the head of his victim. If it hadn't been for Ona and Argy, you wouldn't have made it at all.
The pussycat and the howling puppy did very well today, I have to admit that.
Ona looked at Vigo and growled. Argy howled at him.
I love you too,
Vigo said, blowing kisses at them. You know they don't like being called anything but their names. I don't know why you insist on demeaning nicknames, Nilsa said reproachfully.
Because it's fun.
Yeah, hilarious, Nilsa said with a look that said he was hopeless. There's something wrong with you, and you'd better tell us before you get killed, or get one of us killed, Gerd said accusingly, pointing his finger at him. Vigo sighed with a grimace.
Nothing's wrong with me. How many times do I have to tell you? Didn't we kill the dragon? Well, there you are. Look, another notch in my dragon hunting belt.
Vigo showed him his assassin ranger's belt. It was very close to being a disaster, Lasgold said in a serious tone of concern. We were very close to not making it, and we would have all died.
Speak for yourself. I have no intention of dying, least of all of being eaten by a dragon. My flesh is exquisite, only suitable for a god's palate.
Don't be silly, Nilsa chided him, and take things more seriously. We nearly died.
I do, but I believe you're exaggerating. It was only a little worse than other times. That's because it surprised us and not the other way around, as is the norm in our victories. It has nothing to do with my exceptional performance. Let me remind you that once again I've saved the day.
He is right about that, Gerd admitted. Yeah, it took us by surprise, and from behind, Nilsa said. He was a veteran dragon and very clever. It was not fooled at the pearl, and it found us to surprise us. Lasgold nodded. If we meet more dragons like that, we better take extreme precautions, or we won't survive the next encounter. I totally agree, Nilsa said. Yeah, we must be careful with veteran dragons. Gerd nodded. Lasgold looked toward the dead dragon in the middle of the road. They would not be able to move it. It must weigh a ton. They would have to follow a road soon, or they'd be found out. That corpse was too large to not draw attention. They needed Edwina to perform one of her healing miracles. All of a sudden, he felt a flash at the back of his head, and an image formed, coming to the foreground. It was Edwina. She was healing him from some poison, and it was then that he remembered that Edwina had saved his life at the camp when he was training to be a ranger. I've remembered. Something new, he told his friends, scratching his head. Well, that's really good news. Nilsa cheered up, and her aching face grew bright. Edwina saved me from dying.
At the camp. Not entirely true. The truth is that you died and came back, Vigo told him.
Did I? Lasgold did not remember it that way.
You were gone for an instant, but you came back, Gerd said.
Edwina brought you back, Nielsa added. Lasgold nodded. He remembered this scene at the camp's infirmary, although, of course, he didn't remember having been gone, only coming back. The fact that he remembered that scene was a remarkable achievement. I remember. It's great. Vigo raised his arms in the air.
See here, there are about 1 million things you still have to remember. It's going to take you 1,000 years, or 2,000.
Don't be a pain. He'll surely remember many things all at once, as soon as he's a little better, Nielsa said.
Yeah, sure, and that will be in 1,000 years or more.
Shh, Edwina said without opening her eyes or looking at them. They were all quiet at once, and they sat to wait for her to finish the healing process. Edwina worked thoroughly, applying all the healing knowledge she now treasured after a life of study and practice. Seeing that the healer took her time, Lasgold addressed his friends.
We must hide the dead dragon. It draws too much attention, from land and from the sky. Well, unless you have some new skill of invisibility you've developed lately, that's a negative. That winged lizard weighs as much as a castle, said Vigo.
I don't have such a skill. We could camouflage it, Gerd suggested. We're surrounded by forest. We'll cut branches and brush and cover it. Excellent idea. Nielsa smiled at him and patted her giant friend's back.
I was going to suggest cutting it up. But this'll be faster, yeah, and less messy, Vigo commented. Although I want to try grilled dragon's leg. It must be good, now that I think of it. With all the meat they have, we ought to raise them like cattle and then eat them.
That's crazy, Nielsa chided.
It'd be a real sweet deal. Have you forgotten that to fatten one of these, you'd need about 100 cows? Gerd told him, arching both eyebrows. Oops, I see. Bad business. That's right, come on. Cut those blasted branches, Gerd told him.
They worked for a good while until the dragon was conveniently covered with thicket. The other dragons would not see it from the air. Someone from the road would, however, so they went to work setting a safety perimeter around it. They waited in hiding, alert, while the healer worked. At nightfall, finally, with the moon high, Edwina took her hands away from Camu's body. I did all I could, she said, and lay down on the ground beside Camu, exhausted. Ona and Argy, who had not moved from his side, ran off to let the others know. Nielsa, Gerd, Vigo, and Lasgold came back at a run. They found Camu and the healer both unconscious.
That's not good at all,
Vigo commented, shaking his head. They both fainted. No, not good, Gerd said, looking at both sides of the road worried. I don't think we'll be able to wake them up, Nielsa commented, stroking Edwina's face.
Let's let them rest. We'll set up a watch and hope nothing happens tonight,
said Lasgold.
Yeah, sure, since everything always goes smoothly with us,
Vigo protested, raising his arms to the night sky. Chapter 10. Dawn came, but the situation didn't change. Both Camu and Edwina were still unconscious. They both seemed to be in a dream world, recovering their bodies, their minds, and their vital energy. Or so Lasgold hoped, as he stood beside them looking at them with a worry that scratched his insides. Although there was still so much he didn't remember, the little that he had recovered of his memory about both of them had sank very deep. Seeing them helpless, and with danger lurking, caused him great trouble. He didn't want to lose them.
They'll soon wake up, and they'll be all right,
Gerd said reassuringly as he put his hand on Lasgold's shoulder for courage.
I hope so.
You'll see. Camu's very tough, and Edwina's power of healing and knowledge are exceptional.
Yeah, let's hope. You did well by sending Ona and Argy on patrol. They were both very sad here. They're better off busy.
Yeah, and we also need to be alert. Vigo was moving about more than usual. He paced from one side to another. The waiting was not agreeing with him.
They should wake up already. We need to get moving, he muttered.
Don't be mean. They need to rest and recover, Nielsa replied as she tended her bow and arrows sitting by the road.
This happened because the bug's too slow and almost as clumsy as you. The dragon's claw attacks always catch him.
We weren't all born with the agility and reflexes of a black cat like you, Nielsa retorted as she adjusted the bandage on her arm wound.
He is somewhat right. He's already been wounded several times by the dragons with this type of attack, Gerd commented. Yeah, and the first ones, the lesser dragons created by the immortal dragon, weren't so physically powerful, but these flying mammoths are huge, and the blows are a lot stronger,
Vigo commented, hitting his right fist in the palm of his left hand, and the sound illustrated what he thought.
We are at a disadvantage against the dragons on the ground,
Lasgul said.
Him more than any of us,
he said, looking at Camo.
But I doubt we'll spring wings any time soon,
Vigo said, annoyed. They waited in silence for a while. Lasgul moved away from the group a little and decided to practice to relax in this moment of trouble. One of the things he had found was that practicing his skills relaxed him, even when he did not manage to activate them all. Even so, he felt a great inner peace when he managed to chain some of them successfully. He believed it was because this way he proved that his magic worked, despite everything. This gave him great hope. The day would come, he was sure of it, when he would recover all his skills and power completely. He only had to keep trying. Work and time would help him achieve his wish of being who he used to be, someday. Perhaps he would reach even farther and manage to excel, and thinking about it cheered him greatly. He reminded himself he ought not to be so optimistic. Things were not going so well as to blow his own trumpet. But hope and a desire to improve never left him, and he gave thanks for this. So he breathed in deep through the nose, let the air out through the mouth, and closing his eyes, he relaxed. He repeated this breathing exercise 5 times, and then concentrated. He started going through his pre-combat skills. He didn't manage all the skills in this series, but he knew which ones they were. His friends had told him, and they were also registered in Egil's notebooks. Camus and Gerd had explained to him that he had skills that allowed him to improve some of his senses. They'd explained them to him. Camus knew them all. They were part of the pre-combat skills Lasgul used habitually, both to practice and to improve his magical skills. They had encouraged him to practice the list, since it might help him remember the lost skills and improve those he had recovered in the last few years. They couldn't have been more right. He sighed and tried to stay optimistic. The fact that he didn't remember all his skills didn't mean he could not rediscover and recover them. That was his new plan of action. Try to rediscover his lost skills. If he had been able to discover them once, the second time ought to be easier. Maybe not, but he was going to try, and he hoped it would be so. Besides, some of the skills he had remembered himself, without knowing why. Not only that, in the time he had been away from the Snow Panthers, he had developed some new ones which his friends hadn't known, from what they had told him. That gave him lots of hope. He knew there was something broken inside him. He felt a disconnection between his magic and his mind. His link had shattered. That was what the immortal dragon had broken. For some reason, it hadn't managed to break it completely, and some of the bond remained. A thread that still linked mind and magic. It was growing stronger every day. He started with the exercises in the list, calling upon the skills one after the other. The thread was weak for now, but one day it would be strong again, and his skills and magical power would return in all their splendor. Suddenly, Ona came to them at a run. "What is it, Ona?" Lasgul asked her, getting down on one knee so his head was level with the Snow Panthers. Ona chirped and then growled. "We have company," Lasgul warned the others. "The other dragon?" Gerd asked, picking his bow and quiver. Ona chirped twice and then moaned. "No, it's not a dragon. Soldiers?" Ona chirped once and looked to the road west. "Yeah, soldiers." "Well, if they're coming from the west, they're going to stumble upon the dragon and will sound the alarm," said Nielsa. "That's not good for us," Lasgul said, watching the road. "We must prevent the dragons from discovering this," Nielsa agreed, "for as long as we can." "No problem. We attack the soldiers and kill them. Matter solved," Vigo said nonchalantly. "You don't even know what soldiers they are," Nielsa told him. "So what? Soldiers are soldiers. If they're not Norganian, what do we care?" "Life has to be very simple for you, seeing everything that way," Nielsa said, shaking her head. Lasgul heaved a deep sigh. "We shouldn't confront the soldiers, whether they're from the city-states of the east or from Craido." "There's a noticeable difference," Gerd commented thoughtfully. "You think? Soldiers are soldiers, and they'll both attack us when they see us. They're at war, in case you haven't noticed," Vigo rebuked. They're most likely from Craido. The soldiers of the city-states didn't use to leave their cities too much. Now they'll do so even less, since there are dragons around, said Gerd reasonably. So, if they're from Craido, they're enemies. They want to kill us, Vigo said. So my plan is still valid. Not necessarily, Gerd speculated under his breath. What do you mean? Vigo looked at him blankly. Think of Daphne, Lily, and the others. They wouldn't necessarily attack us. Gerd is right. I think I know what he means, Nielsa said. I don't understand him at all. Vigo waved his hands around, as if everything they were saying lacked any sense. We don't have any time to ponder, said Lasgul. We can hide Edwina in the forest. Camus, I don't think we should move, so let's cover him up quickly. All right, Gerd replied. Nielsa and Vigo nodded. They all started to hide Edwina and Camus. Once they had him covered like the dragon, Lasgul bent around his partner several times. What on earth are you doing? Vigo asked him. Protecting him. Nothing can happen to him. Okay, but hurry up, they're already coming. Vigo pointed west. Lasgul stood up and looked west. He saw the flash of sun on the steel. Let's go and hide. They took cover in the forest with their weapons ready. Lasgul and Vigo remained hidden in the forest with Ona. They had Edwina behind them among the thicket and Camus in front of them on the road. Nielsa, Gerd, and Argy hid on the opposite side. A column of soldiers appeared on the road from the west. Lasgul counted as they appeared. 2 groups of 20. They were not reinforcements, but a convoy. They were escorting 10 carts, loaded with supplies, and pulled by strong horses. The carts were driven by another 20 soldiers. Those are taking supplies somewhere, Vigo whispered in Lasgul's ear, who nodded. I guess that army won't be too far off. Who are they? They're dressed all in black. They have style. Lasgul thought for a moment. From what our friends of the Igneous Squad have told us, the 5 Dragon Kings have divided the conquest of Tremia among them. Erigor Mao, the Red Dragon King, has the north of Tremia, which includes the Reborn Continent, the Kingdom of Norgana, and the Frozen Continent. Ixt Urd-Ar, the Blue Dragon King, has the west of Tremia, which includes the Kingdom of Rogdon, the Mazgig tribes of the steppes, as well as the Usiks of the Great Forests. Aiz Zur-Tor, the White Dragon King, has the middle of the continent, which includes the kingdoms of Zangria, Erenal, and the Central Sea. Oskbel's Hill, the Black Dragon King, has the east, with the kingdoms of Irenel, Moontain, and the Confederation of the 5 city-states of the east. Ram-Mar Oe, the Brown Dragon King, has all the south of Tremia, the Nosian Empire. How come you remember the names of the Dragon Kings, and you don't remember your best friends? Vigo asked him with a look of disbelief. Lasgul sighed. It's the curse the immortal dragon inflicted upon me, and it's the one I must suffer. Well, don't worry. You and I will once again be the best of friends, just like before. We were? Of course, like identical twins. Lasgul looked at Vigo, who had said this as if it were the greatest of truths in the world, but for some reason, he didn't fully believe it. They might have been good friends, but not as good as the assassin claimed. If you say so. Vigo smiled, considering the matter closed. Then those are the soldiers of Oskbel's Hill, Black Dragon King of Craido. They're big brutes, don't you think? Vigo was watching them with eyes narrowed. Yeah, they're large. I see Taruk, Copro, and Draconids. Vigo waited a moment longer for them to be closer to see them better. Ox and goat heads, and the little cousins of the dragons. Half of one race and half of the other. Curious. Don't disrespect them. Their race is just like us. We're humans, and not at all like theirs. Not in looks, but in what's in here we are, Lasgul told him, pointing at his heart and head with his finger. I'm not too sure of that, Vigo said. I certainly don't like the wingless mini-dragons at all. I don't trust them. And the ox and goat heads look like they have much muscle and little brain. You've met Evo, and you know full well that he has a very good head, apart from muscle. He must be an exception. Vigo refused to change his mind. The convoy approached at a slow rhythm. Lasgul was surprised they weren't using explorers. They marched as if they were very sure they were not going to be attacked. It was true that they were impressive, all enormous and dressed in black, but even so he didn't find it logical. Whoever was watchful avoided surprises and trouble. They were armed with steel spears and shields, which they carried easily. They were strong and mighty. By the way they were walking, they didn't look tired. If they had been traveling for long, they held up well. They look pretty strong, Vigo said to Lasgol in a cautious tone.
Better not let them get too close.
Lasgol understood what Vigo was saying. In one-to-one combat, those Taruk Kapro and Draconids would be difficult to defeat. Besides, the Rangers were a lot better at long-range combat rather than one-on-one. Their advantage was precisely in putting distance between them and the enemy. They knew one-on-one combat, but with the exception of assassin specialists like Vigo, it was not the best option for a Ranger.
Let's avoid one-on-one combat. I'd be delighted in a more personal encounter, you know, but you...
Lasgol nodded.
They'll first reach Camo's level. The Red Dragon is more to the east. It's possible they'll go and look. Then we'll have to act. Let's hope they pass by. Camo is close to the edge of the forest. He's not an obstacle for their passing. Well, the dragon is right in the middle. Yeah, it's inevitable that they discover it. From the edge of the forest on the other side of the road, there came the hoot of an owl. That's Gerd. He says they're ready. Vigo told Lasgol. Yeah, I remember those things.
Vigo gave him a blank look.
This thing of yours is most weird, and you were already quite a weirdo before.
I don't know why, but signals and signs and other Ranger things I remember. Also the training and the fighting. It's the people I don't remember.
Weirdo.
Vigo shook his head.
Let's get ready. This is going to get ugly in no time,
Lasgol told Vigo as he crouched. Chapter 11. The convoy of black soldiers reached Camo. The officer at the front, a threatening-looking Draconid, stopped the advance.
Halt,
he ordered in a deep voice. He stood looking at the two large mounds of branches and leaves on the road. First, the one that hid Camo, and then the one that covered the dead dragon.
Check those mounds. They shouldn't be there,
he ordered the 4 soldiers with him. The soldiers went, 2 and 2, to each of the mounds.
Watch out, it might be a trap,
the officer warned them. Lasgol was surprised he could understand the Draconid officer. Then he remembered and looked at the ring on his finger. That was certainly a valuable tool. The 2 soldiers that went over to Camo were Taruk Kapro. They looked without touching anything for a moment, while the other 2 soldiers, Draconids, went over to the dragon. Lasgol thought that perhaps they might get away without fighting. If they didn't do anything to Camo, they didn't have to intervene. As long as they let him be, there would be no problem. Perhaps they would be lucky for once. The 2 Taruk Kapro waited. Lasgol watched them, hidden among the bushes and behind an oak. One was a Taruk and the other one a Kapro. He found them fascinating. Not them, but the fact that there were creatures like them on other worlds far from Tremia. If Tremia was already a world filled with mysteries and wonders, he could only begin to imagine what there might be in the world those beings came from. The 2 Draconids also stopped to look at the dragon mound, in no hurry to investigate further. The rest of the convoy waited, alert, ready to attack if necessary.
Go on, check them,
the officer ordered. The 4 soldiers started to check with their spears, prodding and moving branches and leaves away to see what was underneath. Lasgol and Vigo were ready to act on the Taruk, Nielsa and Gerd on the Draconid. So far they waited, since Camo didn't seem to be in danger. Very carefully, the 2 Taruk cleared part of Camo's body. The more they uncovered, the more astonished they were. Although they were 2 strong soldiers, they did it carefully, as if fearing that this being they were uncovering might wake up and fall upon them in a fury. The looks on their faces were of great surprise, and they looked at one another and shrugged. Lasgol realized that the Craido people most likely had no idea of the existence of a creature like Camo, hence their surprise and caution. That, and the fact that Camo looked quite like a dragon, one without wings. If the 2 Taruk Kapro soldiers were surprised and confused, the Draconid were 1,000 times more. One of them dropped his spear and shield and put his hands to his head. The other came closer, and when he saw the head of the dead dragon, he dropped to his knees and began to mutter some sort of litany.
What is it?
The Draconid officer demanded. The Taruk soldier turned to him.
There's a creature hidden here. What kind of creature?
The officer looked at him blankly.
The Taruk shrugged. I've never seen one like it. It's like our dragon lords, the Kapro added.
Baffling, the Taruk said.
Like? How similar?
The 2 shrugged and pointed at Camo with their spears. Most of his body was now visible. He was still unconscious, but his breathing seemed stable. Lasgol watched, tense, ready to act. The officer decided it would be better to take a closer look. He called 3 more soldiers and walked over to Camus. He looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at him from different angles, even from a crouch.
I don't know what creature this is, but a dragon it is not. It has no wings or long neck. Watch it. It's alive, and it might wake up.
Yes, sir, the Taruk replied. The officer looked at the 2 Draconid. One was still on his knees, while the other one finished clearing what had been hidden. He went over to them and took the 3 soldiers along. When he reached the kneeling soldier, he understood.
A dragon lord, dead. This is unheard of. Very serious. Terribly serious,
he said, in a tone and with a look of being utterly stunned at what he was seeing. They've tried to hide it, the Draconid who had been uncovering the body said. The officer stared at him with a totally blank look on his face.
Hide? Who? Why?
He muttered, and frowned as if he were having a mental seizure.
Whoever killed it,
said one of the 3 soldiers, who was a Taruk.
There can't be a who. It must have died from an illness. The wounds to its eyes and mouth aren't from an illness, sir, the Taruk assured him. If you're insinuating that our enemies have killed it, that's impossible. Our lords don't die by enemy steel. Our lords are invincible. Not even a whole army could kill a dragon lord as big and powerful as this one. A red one, no less. Its fire would have burned them all. That's not what is being said here, the Taruk replied. Silence, Turgus. You're a soldier of Oskbill's Hill, Black Dragon King. Don't say anything you might regret, the officer threatened him. We've all heard the message, the same that says they can be killed. This is the evidence. They've killed it, and it wasn't an army. There are barely traces of footprints on the road, Turgus said, indicating the area near the dead dragon's head with his spear. Bloody traitor, detain him. No one spreads rebellious slander in my presence. The other 2 Draconids who were with Turgus aimed their spears at him and hid behind their shields. The Taruk, calm, made no sign of wanting to fight. He stood still without raising his spear or shield, and looked at the 2 soldiers, then the officer. You Draconids believe everything your lords tell you, even when you have evidence to the contrary right before you. This dragon was killed by a small group, and with weapons. You can deny it all you want, but the evidence is clear. Lascaux realized that the situation was taking a surprising and interesting turn. Vigo motioned for him to act. Lascaux shook his head and motioned for him to wait. Vigo sighed in frustration, but did not attack. The Taruk Kapro of the convoy started moving toward the dead dragon. First the foot soldiers, then the ones on the carts. They did so slowly, straining their necks and looking with interest. What are you doing? Back to the carts, the officer ordered furiously. You don't want them to see the truth, do you? Turgus accused him. There's nothing to see here. Go back to the convoy. Now! The officer yelled at the top of his voice. But the Taruk Kapro did not heed the orders. They kept approaching the dead dragon, spreading in a half circle to better see the dead body. Here's the proof of what we've been told through the message. Proof that there's hope, that we can be free, Turgos cried. Shut up, traitor! Drop your spear and shield! Turgos did no such thing. He remained still while the other Taruk Kapro reached his side. The Draconids also began to move forward toward the officer, brandishing their spears and shields threateningly, ready to attack. The traitors to our dragon lords will die, the officer warned them. Go back to the carts, all of you, or you'll pay with your lives. He threatened the Taruk Kapro without yelling this time, but in a tone of someone passing a death sentence. Turgus addressed his people. Brothers, here's the proof. A dead dragon. The message is true. Freedom is possible. The rumors we've heard are true. You must believe. Kill that traitor. Don't let another treacherous word come out of his mouth, the officer ordered. The 2 Draconids nodded at their officer, and they immediately attacked the Taruk with their spears, seeking his heart and stomach. The Taruk reacted at the same time. He deflected the attack with his own shield and spear. Fight, brothers! For freedom! He cried. The officer saw that the Taruk were thinking about it. Drop your weapons, all of you, or you'll die like this traitor, he ordered. The Taruk Kapro looked at one another. The message is true! For freedom! One of them cried, raising his spear. For our free people! Cried another, and he raised his spear too. The officer took a step back, seeing the Taruk Kapro rebelling. Kill whoever doesn't lower their weapons for treason, he ordered, waving his arms toward the Draconid soldiers, who had come to stand behind the rebels' back. Vigo smiled broadly. This is becoming great fun.
Lasgold didn't find it fun, but he did see that it gave them a chance of getting out of this mess.
Let's see what happens before we rush to any conclusions.
The majority of the Draconid soldiers attacked the Taruk Kapro. Half a dozen did not. They stayed still, looking undecided. The Taruk Kapro turned around and faced the Draconids. The fighting began, a beastly one on both sides, since both sides were made up of strong, well-trained soldiers. The Draconids attacked with great impetus, as if wanting to gain the advantage of attacking first and not giving their rivals time to turn around and confront them. Several Taruk Kapro were wounded in the assault, but the rest managed to bear the first onslaught and counterattacked. Turgus received a wound in the shoulder, but managed to kill one of the two Draconid soldiers attacking him by stabbing his heart in a swift, piercing attack. The strength of the Taruk was such that it pierced through the Draconid's armor as if it were paper and destroyed his heart. The other Draconid, who had wounded him, tried to finish him off with an attack to the neck, but Turgus managed to interpose his shield and deflect it. Next, the Taruk delivered a kick to the Draconid in the attacking leg, which unbalanced him. He finished him off with a reverse blow of his shield to the face. The soldier fell backward unconscious.
"Come and try my blood, murderous dragon slave,"
he challenged the officer.
"I'll kill you, Turgos. You're a stinking traitor,"
the Draconid cried and attacked with a powerful leap, releasing his spear at his rival's chest. The Taruk protected himself with his shield, but he felt the strong blow and retreated, grunting. The wound in his shoulder was bleeding now more intensely. Nielsa and Gerd were watching the fight attentively. "I can't believe they're killing each other," Nielsa muttered, blinking hard.
"There seems to be rebellion supporters and dragon supporters. I find it confusing, honestly. I wonder how they've heard about Nahia and her group's message."
Gerd shrugged. "The division is clear. Taruk Kapro on one side and Draconids on the other."
"It looks that way, with some exceptions on both sides. There are several of each race who aren't fighting and have moved back."
"Perhaps they're undecided."
"Or perhaps they don't want to kill others of their own army."
Nielsa sighed. "Being two different races, it's more likely they're undecided about the rebellion, because I doubt they like each other much." Gerd nodded in agreement.
"Let's see what happens. Whatever the final result is, it's in our favor."
"Yeah, that's true. Fewer soldiers to deal with."
Nielsa nodded. The combat unleashed. If the Taruk Kapro were beastly and their physical power impressive, the Draconids were better with their weapons and were not less impressive physically. The Taruk Kapro delivered devastating blows that made the Draconids' swords fly out of their hands. They, in turn, attacked accurately and with skill, wounding and killing their rivals. Little by little, the beastliness of the Taruk Kapro imposed itself. Even wounded, losing blood, they were capable of striking so hard they knocked down anything and everything in their way. They struck with shield and spear, delivering kicks and terrible blows with their bare hands. If they managed to grasp a Draconid, they would throw them in the air or break their necks. Turgus, though, was losing his own duel. The Draconid officer had wounded him twice more in both thighs to maim him, and his legs were running out of strength. "If we don't do something, that officer is going to kill the rebel Taruk,"
Vigo told Lasgold.
"I'm not sure we should intervene. As a rule, I don't like those oxheads much, but this one in particular I do like. He has guts. He's courageous. We should help him."
Lasgold thought for a moment. "Fine, you're right. He doesn't deserve to die," he told Vigo and aimed. The shot was easy from where he was. The Draconid had knocked Turgus down, and he was lying on his back. He stood over him.
"You're going to die. See how there's no way out, traitor," he said, and put his spear on the Taruk's chest to deliver the final stroke.
Lasgold released. He did not need to use his true shot skill and used a regular arrow which hit the officer in his right shoulder. From the impact and the surprise, he dropped the spear. With eyes popping from their sockets, he stared at the arrow that came out of his shoulder and grasped it. He took one step back, unable to understand what was happening.
"You were saying, dragon slave?" Turgus said from the ground.
At that moment, the fighting stopped. The Taruk Kapro had won, and the Draconids lay dead or wounded at their feet. They all turned to the officer.
"You'll all die,"
he shouted at them. Then he drew a dagger quickly and went to kill Turgus on the ground. Lasgold readied himself to release again, but he didn't need to. Nielsa put an arrow between the officer's eyes. The Draconid fell on his back like a felled tree. The Taruk Kapro looked around for the origin of the arrows. They couldn't locate the archers. Thank you, whoever you are, Turgus cried from the ground. Two of his comrades helped him get up, but his legs would not support him. They kept him on his feet, holding him up, passing his arms over their shoulders.
I think it's time for introductions. I'm sure they'll see us as the legendary heroes we are,
Vigo said, and without waiting for Lasgul to hold him back, he came out into the open nonchalantly.
Vigo, don't!
Lasgul was unable to finish the sentence.
Nice day for some action. That was good. Not as good as killing the red dragon, but it was interesting,
he said. He greeted the Taruk Kapro with a wave and smiled from ear to ear. Chapter 12. The Taruk Kapro stared at Vigo in astonishment. A human who spoke the language of Craido, and who boasted of killing the red dragon? It could not be. Several of them stepped up looking suspicious.
Who are you?
Did you save me? Turgus asked him.
I'm Vigo, Ranger Assassin Extraordinaire.
He introduced himself with a small bow.
No, it wasn't me who saved you. It was my partners, Lasgul and Nilsa.
You can tell your partners to come out. I'm not going to attack them. Vigo looked to where his friends were hiding, and when he saw they were not coming out, he encouraged them to.
You heard him. Come out, don't be shy. They're not going to attack us.
You have my word, we won't attack you, Turgus promised. Lasgul sighed. Coming out in the open was not the best tactic in this situation. It was better to remain hidden. Unfortunately, Vigo had already revealed them. Now the situation had changed. It was better to come out to avoid suspicions. If they stayed hidden, the Taruk Kapro might take it as a threat. It was better to come out and show they had no hostile intentions.
Ona, stay hidden here. Better they don't see you.
The Snow Panther moaned and did as she was told. We're coming out, Lasgul said, and stepped out and joined Vigo, who smiled at him. Lasgul gave him a look that made it clear he did not agree with his risky behavior. A moment later, Nilsa and Gerd came out from their covered positions and revealed themselves on the side of the road. They all had their bows in their hands just in case, but they kept them lowered.
I am grateful for your intervention, Turgus said. How come you speak our language? You wouldn't be...
Lasgul guessed what the Taruk was thinking.
We're not spies, I promise. Then what? Humans don't speak our language. We don't either. Don't you believe that we do? Vigo said.
The Taruk Kapro murmured in surprise and their faces darkened. They had not liked the answer. We can speak your language through magic, Lasgul hastened to say, and he showed them the ring. We're all wearing one. It allows us to understand you and to speak in your language when we address you.
Magic. Yeah, that could explain it. Although, we've never seen any magic that wasn't elemental or mental, and those are always used for attacking.
There are many kinds of magic in the world. That I can assure you, Lasgul said. The magic in these rings is harmless.
Are you magi, then?
We wish, Vigo replied, shaking his head. We're not magi, but I have magic, Lasgul admitted.
Are you the ones who killed that red dragon?
Turgus asked them, and there was hope in his voice. Lasgul nodded. Yes, it was us.
And it's not the first or the last we're going to kill,
Vigo added in a tone that was practically an oath. The Taruk Kapro began to talk among themselves. From their whispers and the looks on their faces, Lasgul guessed they wanted to believe it, but were finding it hard to. He couldn't blame them.
How is that possible?
Another Taruk asked them, looking incredulous.
The dragon was immense and powerful. You are only a small group of humans,
said another Kapro, frowning. We did it, yes, Lasgul replied.
I know it's hard to believe, but it's the truth. It had to be with your magic, then,
Turgus guessed. Magic played a very important part, I admit it, said Lasgul.
And the skill and dexterity without equal of these here present, too,
Vigo added.
Can dragons be killed with your magic?
Another of the Kapro, who was bleeding from a wound in one arm, asked. There is a kind of magic you can wound and even kill dragons with. There are also certain tactics that might be used to injure them, in the mouth and eyes, even without magic. But you'd better tend to those wounds and we'll explain afterwards, Lasgul said.
Yeah, you're right,
Turgus agreed. The Taruk Kapro hesitated. The situation was most unusual. They looked at one another, and then at Lasgul and his friends. A moment later, the Taruk Kapro started tending to their wounds. A group of them went over to those who had not taken part in the fray and surrounded them to keep an eye on them. Nielsa and Gerd went over to Lasgol and Vigo. I wasn't expecting this, Nielsa admitted.
It would appear that Nahia's revolutionary message is spreading far and fast, Gerd commented. Yeah, it's spreading like fire in a dry prairie, said Lasgol. They're oppressed peoples, enslaved, who've been like that for hundreds, if not thousands of years. I'm not surprised, Gerd commented. It's foolish to get so excited about one good piece of news. It tells them there's hope, that there can be a revolution, and they can be free, and now they're all diving headlong into the abyss. I find it stupid, Vigo stated.
You always have such an optimistic view of the world, as black as your soul, Nielsa told him tartly.
And I'm proud of it. Otherwise I'd be a fool, like some in this same group, he said, and looked at Gerd and then Nielsa pointedly. Having good intentions doesn't make one a fool, Gerd retorted. Says you, I say the opposite. Is Argy hidden and waiting? Lasgol asked Gerd. Yeah, I figured it was better if they didn't see him. Don't know what those Taruk Kapro would think of a giant wolf. I don't think they'd be scared of him, seeing how beastly they are, Vigo said.
Sure, but he might make them nervous, Nielsa guessed.
That could be, Vigo agreed. Camus is still sleeping like a log, Gerd commented. He has an amazing ease for sleeping.
I thought he'd wake up in the middle of the fighting with so much shouting and grunting by the Taruk Kapro and Draconid. They're not exactly silent, said Nielsa.
He's capable of sleeping in the middle of a house on fire, said Vigo. Lasgol watched Camus closely to identify his breathing. What he saw eased him a little. Better that he sleeps. He needs to rest, and it gives us time to explain to Turgus and his people who he is. They're going to find it strange that he's here, and I'm sure they're wondering right now. Well, the bug doesn't exactly go unnoticed with his looks, Vigo blurted out.
You're the one who doesn't go unnoticed, and it's not because of your looks, but because of your big mouth. You can't keep it shut, even under water, Nielsa reproached him. Come on, you all adore me on account of this personality of mine. Vigo smiled proudly. Gerd rolled his eyes. What a torture of a man. Nielsa waved her arms with a look of despair. By the time they finished tending to the wounded and piling up the dead on one side, night had begun to fall. Turgus, sitting in the back of a cart on top of a blanket, motioned them to come over. We're going to camp right here. I know it's not the best place, but we're in no condition to go on. I also don't really know what we should do next. Our situation isn't very good. Let's all rest. We also must look after our 2 friends. 2 more? One is the creature you see lying there. I was going to ask you about it. We're puzzled. Is it a dragon? No, he's not. He's a higher draconian. I've never heard of such a species. Turgus looked at 3 Taruk Kapro, who were close and listening carefully. Have any of you? The 3 shook their heads. The Kapro of the 3 looked at Camus for a moment and asked, Is it friend or foe? He's definitely a friend, I swear. His magic helps against the dragons. It helps a lot, Lasgol told him. Has it killed dragons? Yes, with our help. He's helped slay a few of them by now. Then he's one of us, the Kapru said. I think the same. Turgus nodded. The 2 other Taruk nodded too. Go and rest. Tomorrow at dawn we'll keep talking, Turgus said, looking ashen from the loss of blood. All right. Lasgol signalled to his friends, and they went over to Camus. Nielsa and Lasgol went to see to Edwina, while Gerd and Vigo stayed watching over Camus resting peacefully. Lasgol knelt and unobtrusively disarmed and gathered the traps he had set around Camus. That's what you were up to, huh? Vigo said to him. Yeah, I set traps just in case. The skill that makes them nearly invisible works, so I used it. But at least there was no need for you to activate them. Lasgol nodded, and after picking them all up, he put them away in his satchel. Edwina and Camus slept all night, and nothing disturbed their rest. Judging by the deep way they were sleeping, they seemed to be resting way beyond, in a world of dreams. With the first light, the Taruk Kapro started to get ready. They had several wounded, 3 of whom presented complications, which, with the care of a soldier, were not going to be solved, and it was even likely they would not survive. All of the Draconids had died. The few wounded who had been left after the fight appeared in the morning with their throats slit. The Taruk Kapro did not mess around. Edwina woke up at last, and when she found herself with Nielsa, Lasgol, and Ona under an oak and surrounded by brush, she suspected she had missed some event. Did anything happen? Nielsa smiled. We'll explain. How are you? I feel fine, she replied and tried to raise herself up. Lasgol helped her. Allow me, he said, holding her by the arm. The healer stood on her feet and took a deep breath. Yes, I feel recovered. What happened? How's Camus? Nielsa told her briefly what had happened and what she was going to find on the road. Well, looks like I can't even take a nap without things getting very ugly. You can say that again, Nielsa said, chuckling. Luckily, we didn't have to fight. Lasgol set her at ease. Only a couple of arrows, that's all, Nielsa specified. The healer nodded. Let's go and see Camus. Yeah, let's. I'm very glad you're feeling well, Nielsa said, helping her. It's just exhaustion from the healing. With a good night's rest, you recover very well, even at my age. She smiled back. They reached Camus and found him sleeping. Gerd and Edwina were watching over him.
See if you can wake this bug. I'm beginning to think he's begun to hibernate again,
Vigo told Edwina. He's not hibernating, he's just resting. The wounds require rest to heal, she explained and knelt beside Camus. She placed her hands on his rump and began to send healing energy. She checked him for a while.
The Taruk are watching us, Gerd told them. Yeah, it's time to get together so they see us all. Call Argy, Lasgol said.
Gerd nodded and whistled through his fingers, summoning him. Argy came out at once from among the brush and ran to Gerd, who welcomed him with lots of petting. Lasgol turned to Ona, who was watching from the bushes. Ona, come, he called her. The panther hurried to his side. Lasgol stroked her head. Now they're definitely all looking at us, Nielsa commented. Edwina stood up. His wounds are much better. He'll wake up any moment now. She was not wrong. A little while later, Camus woke up. I well, not worry. Red Dragon dead? What happened here? He messaged, looking around without getting up.
We know you're all right. We're not worried. We killed the dragon, and we've made some new brute friends,
Vigo explained in his own manner. Lasgol told him what had happened, and the